Chapter 234. Su Yunqian had been hospitalized for more than a month. Every day, Bailey Han would go to the hospital to take care of her. Old Madam, Bai Jinxiu, and the others would also visit her from time to time. Once, Xia Dong also went to the hospital under Bailey Jing's invitation. Xia Dong was not in a hurry to enter the ward. She was worried that she would agitate Su Yunqian. Instead, she stood at the door and watched for a while. After making sure that her mood had not deteriorated, she walked in. That was the first time she had watched Bailey Han personally feed Su Yunqian. Her feelings were very complicated. She felt guilty towards Su Yunqian and supported Bailey Han in taking care of her. However, when she saw Bailey Han treating Su Yunqian so intimately with her own eyes, she still felt very uncomfortable. Old Madam and Bai Jinxiu had long been accustomed to it and were not surprised. On the contrary, Bailey Jing quietly leaned over to her ear and whispered, "Sister-in-law, don't be jealous. Big brother said that he would take care of Su Yunqian just like he would take care of me." Xia Dong curled her lips and was grateful for her thoughtfulness. After that, Xia Dong followed Bailey Jing to visit Su Yunqian a few times. Every time Su Yunqian saw her, she would smile sweetly and affectionately call her, "beautiful sister." Xia Dong felt awkward when she heard it, but she could only smile and agree. The baby in Xia Dong's stomach was already 20 weeks old. It was time for a checkup. She had made an appointment with Lin Shihao in advance, and Bailey Han accompanied her. There were many pregnant mothers waiting outside the obstetrics and gynecology department for a checkup. Bailey Han held her arm as if he was serving the Empress Dowager. Many people looked up at them, especially the expectant mothers who came alone for a pregnancy checkup. Their eyes were filled with envy. Xia Dong lowered her voice in embarrassment. "I can walk on my own." Actually, her belly didn't look big, so it didn't affect her movements at all. Bailey Han chuckled. "That won't do. Even if you agree, the baby won't agree. I'm supporting the baby." Looking at his proud expression, Xia Dong couldn't help but laugh. When she arrived at the waiting area, there were only 2 people in front of Xia Dong. Just as it was almost Xia Dong's turn, Bailey Han suddenly received a phone call from Lu Zihao. Xia Dong smiled and said, "Answer the phone first. Come and find me later." Lin Shihao's face turned grave as he examined her. Xia Dong's heart tightened. Her fingers gripped the corner of her clothes tightly as she asked nervously, "Shihao, is there something wrong with the baby?" Lin Shihao shook his head. "The baby is normal. However, we found a tumor in your uterus. The possibility of it being malignant is very high. We still need to do further tests." Xia Dong widened her eyes in disbelief. After a few seconds, she asked, "Shihao, if it's a malignant tumor, how do we treat it?" "You need surgery to abort the baby and remove the uterus." Xia Dong felt as if she had been struck by lightning, but she quickly calmed down. "Even if it's a malignant tumor, I can't abort the baby. Shihao, I beg you, don't tell Han about this first." Lin Shihao looked at Xia Dong's pleading eyes and finally nodded. "Dr. Lin, how's the situation?" Bailey Han finished the phone call and walked into Lin Shihao's office. Lin Shihao smiled. "The baby is developing very well. He already has hearing and memory. You can start the most basic prenatal education." Bailey Han asked again, "How's my wife's health?" Lin Shihao's smile faded a little. "She's also very healthy." Before Bailey Han came in, Xia Dong had already made an appointment with Lin Shihao for a further checkup. She decided to hide the uterine fibroids from Bailey Han and her family. Bailey Han helped Xia Dong into the car. When he buckled her seatbelt, he pressed his face against her stomach and chuckled softly. "Baby, it's Daddy. Daddy is going to take you and Mommy home now." He gently caressed her stomach. As if he had heard his voice, the baby suddenly kicked him with his little foot. He immediately smiled. "Wifey, the baby heard me." The baby is so obedient." Xia Dong placed her hand on the back of his hand. There was a gentle smile on her face, but there was an unknown sadness hidden in her heart. The next day, Xia Dong went to the People's Hospital without telling anyone. She did a more detailed checkup. The results showed that the tumor was malignant. Xia Dong leaned against the hospital bed and froze. Lin Shihao didn't know how to comfort her. After a moment of silence, he said, "Are you really not going to have the surgery?" Xia Dong nodded stiffly. "This baby concerns Xiao Guai's life. I have to give birth to him. Get some rest first. I'll ask Siki to take you back." Xia Dong forced a smile. "No, it's okay. I can go back by myself. You go ahead." Although Xia Dong pretended to be strong and acted as if nothing had happened, Lin Shihao was still worried. He called Yi Siki and asked her to go to the hospital to accompany Xia Dong. When Yi Siki heard that Xia Dong was sick, she hung up the phone and rushed to the hospital. When she saw Xia Dong lying on the hospital bed with a pale face, her heart ached. She sat by the bed and asked, Xia, how are you feeling now?" Xia Dong smiled. "Didn't I ask Shihao not to tell you? Why did you still come over?" "Silly girl, is there a need to be so polite between us?" Yi Siki brushed away the hair on her forehead and pulled out a tissue to wipe the sweat on her forehead. Xia Dong held her hand. "Yezi, you have to keep my illness a secret. Don't tell Ahan." "Why? Don't tell me you want to bear the pain and pressure alone. As long as I can hold on until the 40th week and give birth to the children, I can go for the operation. I don't want them to suffer with me." Yi Siki sighed. "You're too silly. If I were Bailey Han, I would definitely want to bear the pressure with you." Xia Dong smiled bitterly. "If I can't hold on until then, how do you expect Ahan to choose between me and the two children? Instead of making him suffer, it's better for me to make the decision alone." If there was no time for the operation, she would rather give up her life and save the two children. No matter how Yi Siki tried to persuade her, Xia Dong insisted on her own way of thinking. She wanted to bear all of this alone. Yi Siki accompanied her for lunch and walked around for a while to relax. Then he drove her back to the entrance of the old mansion. "If there's anything, feel free to contact me." Yi Siki hugged her when they got out of the car. "I know, Yezi. You have to be happy too. Live well with Shihao." Xia Dong asked the chauffeur to send Yi Siki home. Because of Xia Dong's matter, Yi Siki was also very depressed. She was still thinking about all sorts of things when she was cooking dinner. She almost cut her finger when she was cutting vegetables. She sighed, put away her thoughts, and focused on cutting vegetables. That night, Lin Shihao got off work early. Seeing that she was still busy in the kitchen, he immediately grabbed the spatula from her hand and chased her out of the kitchen to let her rest. During dinner, she was still a little absent-minded. Lin Shihao noticed and deliberately told Yi Siki something interesting happened in the hospital. Nyonyo giggled and pushed Yi Siki's arm. "Mommy, Daddy's joke is so funny. Why aren't you laughing?" "Huh?" Only then did Yi Siki realize that the father and son were staring at her with smiles on their faces. She quickly laughed dryly and patted her daughter's head. "It's very funny." "Ha, ha," Lin Shihao and his daughter despised her together. "Nyonyo, your mommy's reaction is so slow. She only found the joke funny after we finished laughing." Nyonyo made a face. "Yeah, mommy is so stupid." Yi Siki purposely raised her eyebrows angrily. "Are you laughing at me?" Nyonyo stuck out her tongue and snickered. "No, we just think that mommy is so cute because she's so stupid." Lin Shihao patted Yi Siki's head just like how he patted Nyonyo's head. He said seriously, "Honey, you have to admit your shortcomings. You can't hide your illness for fear of treatment." Nyonyo exclaimed and raised her little hand in surprise. "Daddy, I know what it means to hide one's illness for fear of treatment. Our teacher taught us that before." Then Nyonyo will explain to your mommy what it means to hide one's illness for fear of treatment, in case she's too stupid to understand. "You too, that's enough. If you continue talking, you won't have breakfast tomorrow. Yisiki snorted and threatened them with a smile. Aya, Nyo-Nyo is so scared. Nyo-Nyo patted her little chest adorably. Lin Shihao laughed. Don't be afraid, Nyo-Nyo. Daddy will make breakfast tomorrow. That's great. Mommy can't threaten us now. The father and daughter sang the same tune. Yisiki didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but her depressed mood was also relieved a lot. After breakfast, they watched TV for a while. Yisiki took her daughter to take a shower. Lin Shihao was checking his daughter's homework when his cell phone suddenly rang. He didn't need to look to know who was calling. During this period, Bai Meiwei had been texting or calling him at this time every night, but he had never replied. Lin Shihao hung up again. 2 minutes later, he received a text message. Senior, I'm pregnant. I'm at Charm Bar right now. If you don't come over, I'll tell Yisiki about this. Pregnant. These 2 words were like a bolt from the blue. Lin Shihao couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. His limbs were cold, and he almost stopped breathing. His relationship with Siki had just improved, and now Bai Meiwei's pregnancy had suddenly popped up. How should he deal with it? Lin Shihao sat on the sofa dejectedly. He hugged his head with both hands, and his mind was in a mess. His cell phone rang again. It was a text from Bai Meiwei. Senior, I'll call Yisiki in an hour. Lin Shihao suddenly stood up. Yisiki came out of the bathroom and saw this scene. She was shocked. Hubby, why do you look so pale? Are you feeling unwell? Lin Shihao said stiffly, I have a headache. I'm going out to buy some medicine. Okay, go quickly. Yisiki didn't suspect anything. She took his coat and helped him put it on. Lin Shihao almost didn't dare to look her in the eye. He took his car keys and hurried out. Beauty novel, Shinwoo 799. Chapter 235. Yisiki felt that his expression was a little strange. She thought that it was because of his headache, so she didn't think too much about it. After returning to the room, she found his wallet on the bedside table and quickly called him. The phone rang a few times before he answered. Honey, what's wrong? Yisiki said, Hubby, you left your wallet at home. Wait for me downstairs. I'll send it down for you. No need. I still have some money in my pocket. Oh, okay then. Go and come back quickly. There was a pharmacy just outside their neighborhood. It would take more than half an hour to go there. Lin Shihao drove the car out of the underground garage. He used the GPS to find the location of Charm Say and sped all the way to the destination. When he arrived at the bar, Bai Meiwei was sitting in the corner of the hall, drinking. She was wearing a light yellow dress. She tilted her head and looked at him with intoxicated eyes. Senior, you're here. Lin Shihao snatched the wine glass from her hand. Meiwei, tell me clearly. What's with the pregnancy? Bai Meiwei smiled foolishly. I'm pregnant. It's been 6 weeks. Senior, what do you think I should do now? Lin Shihao was about to go crazy. If he hadn't been so panicked at that time and let her take the emergency contraceptive pill, this wouldn't have happened. He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Meiwei, you should abort this child. He had already made a decision on the way here. You want me to abort the child? Bai Meiwei widened her eyes in disbelief. Senior, you're a doctor. Don't you know how much damage a woman's body will suffer from an abortion? Moreover, this is our baby. How can you be so cruel? I know that an abortion will hurt you, but Meiwei, the 2 of us have no future. I can't give you happiness. If the child is born, it will only cause trouble for us. Even if I let you down, we can't have this child. Lin Shihao mustered up a lot of courage to say these words. He was also full of guilt towards Bai Meiwei. I don't care. I want to give birth to this child. Tears streamed down by Mei Wei's face. Senior, you can't be so cruel. I love this child. You can't force me to give him up. Lin Shihao's deep eyes were filled with pain. Mei Wei, you're still young and have a bright future ahead of you. You can't ruin yourself because of this child. I beg you, give up on the child. No, I don't want to listen. Bai Mei Wei shook her head frantically, crying hysterically, Senior, I beg you, let me keep this child. As long as you keep the child, I won't bother you anymore. Mei Wei, you're drunk. Calm down first. Seeing that she was so agitated, Lin Shihao knew that there was no point in continuing the conversation, so he softened his tone and said, let's talk about this again after we calm down. Bai Mei Wei's face was covered in tears. Lin Shihao sighed and handed her a tissue. She didn't take it. She bit her lip and cried silently. Lin Shihao hesitated for a moment, but still helped her wipe her tears. She suddenly grabbed his hand and looked at him with teary eyes. Senior, how am I not as good as Yisiki? Lin Shihao stared into her eyes and said slowly, Mei Wei, you're very good. You're beautiful, young, and talented. But I love Siki. Even if Bai Mei Wei was perfect, he didn't love her. Bai Mei Wei's eyes filled with tears again. Let's go. I'll take you home first. You're drunk. Lin Shihao stood up and stretched out his right hand. Bai Mei Wei reached out and placed her hand in his. With his help, she stood up. She didn't know how much she had drunk, but she wasn't drunk. She clearly understood that this man didn't love her and didn't want the baby in her arms. But she wanted to give the baby a complete family. Lin Shihao helped her into the car. He focused on driving without looking sideways. She leaned back in her seat and turned to look out the window. The night view of the city was mesmerizing. The lights were bright, but to her, it was filled with sadness. Bai Mei Wei bit her lip and held back the tears in her eyes. She stroked her belly with her right hand and secretly made up her mind that she had to give the baby a complete family. She couldn't act rashly anymore. She had to adopt a rational strategy. Lin Shihao walked her to the door of the villa. She turned to look at him. Under the light, she revealed a pale smile. Senior, thank you for taking me home. I was drunk just now. Don't take what I said to heart. I will carefully consider whether or not to give up on the child. Lin Shihao said in a low voice, You're tired. Go back and rest early. We'll talk about the child in 2 days. Okay. She obediently opened the car door and got out of the car. She stood by the roadside and waved at him. Lin Shihao nodded and drove away. He rushed back to the neighborhood as fast as he could. After entering the elevator, he carefully adjusted his clothes in the mirror inside the elevator. He took a few deep breaths before he walked out of the elevator with a calm expression. Lin Shihao opened the door with his key. After he walked in, he found Yisiki sitting on the sofa waiting for him. Perhaps she had waited for too long because she had fallen asleep. Her body leaned against the back of the chair and she slept very hard. He didn't even have time to take off his jacket. He bent down and picked her up and walked to the bedroom. Yisiki wasn't a deep sleeper. She woke up after he took 2 steps. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and asked, Hubby, why were you gone for so long? Did you buy the medicine? Does your head still hurt? Lin Shihao hugged her tightly. The pharmacy in the neighborhood didn't have that kind of medicine, so I went further away to buy it. My head doesn't hurt anymore. Okay, that's good. You must have been working too hard. That's why you have a headache. I'll buy some nutritious food for your brain tomorrow. Yisiki reached out and hugged his neck. Lin Shihao felt guilty and touched. He said gently, Honey, you don't have to wait for me in the future. If you're tired, go to sleep first. He felt very sad when he saw her sleeping so hard on the sofa. Okay, I know. She rubbed against his chest comfortably. She hadn't done that intimate action in a long time. Lin Shihao kissed her forehead and put her on the bed. Honey, go to sleep first. I'm going to take a shower. Okay. She answered lazily. She crawled under the covers and quickly closed her eyes. In the bathroom, the sound of water splashing could be heard. Lin Shihao looked at the foggy mirror. His face was a blur. He clenched his fists in pain. Bai Meiwei's sorrowful cries and Siki's trusting gaze intertwined in his mind. He was in so much pain that he wanted to die. Life went on. Some people were in pain, while others were in bliss. Xia Dong had already begun to feel the pain caused by the tumor. Her stomach ached, her back ached, and she felt as if she was falling. Actually, before she was diagnosed, she had felt the same way. However, she had always thought that it was a normal condition of pregnancy and didn't take it to heart. When she woke up in the morning, her stomach started to hurt again. She held her stomach and sat on the bed, not wanting to move for a long time. Bailey Han finished washing up and came out of the bathroom. Seeing that she didn't look too good, he strode over and asked anxiously, "Honey, is your stomach hurting?" Xia Dong looked up at him and smiled. "No, the baby kicked me just now." Bailey Han's expression brightened. He stroked her stomach gently and smiled. "Baby, don't torture your mommy anymore. Otherwise, when you come out, Daddy will spank your butt." Xia Dong cried out, "Aya." The baby moved. "He must be unhappy with what you said." After the baby moved a little, her stomach actually didn't hurt anymore. Bailey Han deliberately put on a stern face. "Little brat, you dare to protest against Daddy now? When you grow up, you'll turn the sky upside down." Xia Dong hurriedly covered his mouth. "You're so annoying. Don't scare the child. The doctor said that the baby now has hearing and memory. He will remember what you said." Bailey Han held her hand and chuckled. "I know, honey. In the future, when we do intimate things, we have to worry about the baby peeking." "Pervert." Xia Dong rolled her eyes at him in annoyance. Her cheeks quietly turned red. Bailey Han was in a good mood and kissed her on the lips. He whispered, "The baby has hearing. You can't scold me in the future. Otherwise, if the baby hears it, he will definitely misunderstand that his daddy is a bad person." "Hey, you're not a good person to begin with." Xia Dong poked his arm with her finger and deliberately put on a stern face. "You took me hostage and used your power to force me to marry you. This matter is a sad history full of blood and tears." Bailey Han's face was bitter. "Honey, can we not talk about that matter anymore?" She raised her eyebrows proudly. "No, that matter is enough for me to talk about for the rest of my life." "Alright, if you're happy, I'm willing to let you talk about it for the rest of my life." Bailey Han saw her smile and his heart was bubbling with happiness. He hugged her and kissed her again and again. Xia Dong blushed and pushed him. "Hurry up and go to work. Otherwise, you'll be late." Bailey Han teased her for a while more before going downstairs with a smile. When Xia Dong finished tidying up and went downstairs, Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao Gigai were sitting at the dining table eating. Bailey Han had just finished eating and stood up gracefully. He touched the two little guys' heads and reminded them to be obedient at school today. Then he walked in front of Xia Dong, put his arm around her waist, and said softly, "Honey, I'm going to the company." "Okay, be careful on the road." Xia Dong smiled as she sent him to the door. As her illness worsened, Xia Dong handed the task of sending the children to and from school to the driver. She was worried that she would fall ill while driving. That would be too dangerous. Lin Shihao prescribed her some medicine that had the effect of suppressing the illness, but she was worried that it would have a negative effect on the baby, so she did not take it. After taking it home, she secretly poured it down the toilet and flushed it all down the drain. Xia Dong rarely went out. She stayed at home to take care of the baby and accompany Gigai. She only went out with Bailey Han regularly to take Gigai to the hospital for chemotherapy. On this day, the weather was very good. The old madam decided to visit Su Yunxian in the hospital. Bailey Jing invited Xia Dong to go with him. Xia Dong did not want to go at first, but the old madam said, "Granddaughter-in-law, it's not good for the baby if you stay at home every day. Pregnant women should also exercise appropriately. Come out with us." Xia Dong had no choice but to go with them. Su Yunxian's illness seemed to be improving again. Now her dominant personality had become the naive and cheerful one. Most of the time, she faced everyone with her naive and cheerful side. Su Yunxian was very happy to see Xia Dong. "Pretty sister, you're here to see me again." Xia Dong smiled and nodded. The old madam smiled. "Granddaughter-in-law, look, Yunxian still misses you. You should come and see her more often in the future." Xia Dong smiled and said, "Okay." Su Yunxian looked at Xia Dong's belly in surprise. "Pretty sister, why is your belly so big?" Xia Dong covered her belly with her right hand and smiled. "Because there's a Xiaobao baby in my belly." "Xiaobao baby? It's so magical. Can I touch it?" Xia Dong hesitated for a moment and finally nodded under her pure and expectant gaze. Su Yunxian happily reached out her right hand and carefully touched Xia Dong's belly. "It's so round. It's so cute." She touched it for nearly a minute before she reluctantly withdrew her hand. Seeing that her mood had stabilized and her illness had improved, everyone was very happy. The old madam and Mrs. Su chatted for more than an hour. When the old madam and the others were about to leave, Su Yunxian suddenly said, "Pretty sister, can I talk to you alone?" Xia Dong was a little hesitant. Mrs. Su smiled and said, "Xia Dong, it seems that Yunxian likes you very much. Please accompany her for a while." The old madam also said, "Granddaughter-in-law, accompany Yunxian for a while." Xia Dong could only nod. Only Xia Dong and Su Yunxian were left in the ward. Su Yunxian looked at her with a smile and pointed at the sofa beside her. "Pretty sister, sit over here." Xia Dong smiled and sat beside her. "Pretty sister, your name is Xia Dong, right?" Su Yunxian held her head with both hands and looked at her with a smile. Xia Dong hummed in acknowledgement. Su Yunxian's smile suddenly disappeared and her expression became cold. She said coldly, "Han abandoned me because of you." Her expression changed too quickly and her beautiful eyes were full of hatred. Xia Dong stared at her in disbelief. "Miss Su, are you okay?" Su Yunxian exuded a dark and strange aura. She was like a vicious witch from hell. Her delicate face was already distorted by hatred and she said coldly, "Yes, of course I'm not okay. I was kidnapped by your perverted admirer and I thought you would have a trace of conscience and come to save me. But I never thought that you would watch me get raped by that pervert." Su Yunxian's strange aura and cold tone made Xia Dong shudder. She stepped back vigilantly and said calmly, "Miss Su, I'm really sorry about what happened to you. Is it okay to just say sorry?" Su Yunxian suddenly grinned. The strange aura around her dissipated and she revealed an innocent smile. "Then you're oversimplifying things, pretty sister." Ad. Songshu 566. Chapter 236. Xia Dong had a bad feeling. She quickly got up and wanted to run out. However, Su Yunxian was faster than her. She suddenly stretched out a leg and blocked Xia Dong. Xia Dong was so fast that she almost tripped. Fortunately, she quickly grabbed the table next to her and steadied herself. However, Su Yunxian wouldn't let her off so easily. At the same time, she stabbed Xia Dong's stomach with a dagger. In the blink of an eye, Xia Dong put her left hand on the table and grabbed the dagger with her right hand. The sharp blade cut her palm and blood dripped onto the carpet. Su Yunxian gritted her teeth and pushed the dagger in Xia Dong's direction with all her might. She stared coldly at Xia Dong's stomach because that was her target. Xia Dong held the dagger tightly and endured the pain. She shouted for help, "Help!" Just as the door was opened from the outside, Su Yunxian's eyes rolled back and she fell to the ground. Her body was at the spot where Xia Dong's blood dripped. Oh my god, what's going on? Yunqian, Yunqian. Madame Su was the first to run in. When she saw Su Yunqian lying in a pool of blood, she thought that she was the one who was injured. She quickly held her shoulders and shouted, "Doctor." The old madam walked in with the help of Bailey Jing. Bailey Jing had sharp eyes and saw that Xia Dong was holding a dagger in her right hand. Blood was dripping down the back of her hand. She quickly said, "Sister-in-law, your hand is injured." The old madam hurriedly said, "Quick, Jing, go and help your sister-in-law." Bailey Jing ran over and helped the pale Xia Dong sit on the sofa. Only then did she see that Xia Dong's entire palm was stained red with blood. She couldn't even see the wound clearly. The doctor and nurse rushed over. The doctor checked Su Yunqian's condition while the nurse, Miss, treated Xia Dong's wound. The nurse asked Xia Dong to open her right hand and found that the blade had been embedded in her palm. Even the nurse, who was used to seeing wounds, shuddered. She carefully pulled the dagger out of her palm, and the blood flowed even more. The wound on his right hand was very deep and long. He could almost see the bone. After the nurse finished bandaging her wound, Xia Dong was about to faint from the pain. Her face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and her lips were pale. The doctor immediately asked someone to help her into the ward to rest. When Bailey Han heard the news and rushed over, Su Yunqian had yet to wake up, and Xia Dong was lying on the hospital bed with a bloody gauze wrapped around her right hand. He held her in his arms with heartache. "Wife, what happened? How did your hand get injured?" Xia Dong leaned on his broad chest. Her heart was still beating fiercely. She still felt afraid when she recalled what had just happened. Her body trembled slightly. She wanted to tell him about Su Yunqian's abnormality, but her mind was in a mess and she couldn't say it. "All right, don't be afraid. I'm here. I'll always be here." Bailey Han felt her fear and hugged her tightly to comfort her. After about 10 minutes, Xia Dong finally calmed down. She thought for a moment and said, "Han, I suspect that Su Yunqian hurt me on purpose." Bailey Han was shocked and looked at her in disbelief. She pursed her lips and continued, "Just now, Su Yunqian suddenly asked for my name and said that you abandoned her because of me. She blamed me for not saving her when she was kidnapped. Then she became very scary. I was worried that she would suddenly lose her mind and hurt me and the child, so I got up to leave. I didn't expect her to stretch out her leg and almost trip me. When I steadied myself, she pulled out a dagger and stabbed at my abdomen. Fortunately, I caught the dagger firmly." She leaned into his arms tightly and said with a trembling voice, Fortunately, I caught it. Otherwise, the baby would have." Bailey Han's heart ached as he hugged her tightly. He could imagine the tense scene at that time. He could imagine Xia Dong's panic. "Han, I suspect that Su Yunqian hurt me on purpose. I also suspect that she didn't lose her mind but was pretending." When Bailey Han rushed over, Xia Dong thought a lot and recalled the scene again and again. She always felt that there was something wrong with Su Yunqian. It was not as simple as a split personality. Bailey Han touched her hair. "Honey, take a rest first. Don't think so much." Xia Dong asked him nervously, "You don't believe what I said?" Bailey Han said softly, "It's not that I don't believe you. When Yunqian wakes up, I'll ask her." "Good girl, don't think anymore. Take a rest." Xia Dong's right hand was in so much pain that she couldn't sleep at all. However, she didn't want Bailey Han to worry, so she quietly lay in his arms and closed her eyes to rest. Leaning against his warm chest and listening to his steady heartbeat, she gradually fell asleep. She didn't know how long she slept. When she woke up, Bailey Han was no longer by her side. She asked the nurse and found out that he was in Su Yunqian's ward. Xia Dong dragged her injured right hand and walked step by step to the door of Su Yunqian's ward. She used her left hand to gently turn the handle and pushed the door open slightly. She saw Bailey Han sitting by Su Yunqian's bed. Su Yunxian had already woken up and her face was full of tears. Su Yunxian cried and said, I don't know. I really don't know. How could I hurt pretty sister? Bailey Han's voice was a little low. Yunxian, where did the dagger come from? Su Yunxian cried and shook her head. I don't know either. Han, believe me. I really didn't hurt her. Old Madam's voice sounded. Ah Han, Yunxian has just woken up. Don't force her anymore. It turned out that Old Madam was also in the ward. Perhaps she was sitting on the sofa, so Xia Dong didn't see her. Sister-in-law, why don't you go in? Bailey Jing's voice came from behind. Xia Dong quickly straightened up and turned to Bailey Jing. Instead of answering, she asked, Jing, where did you go just now? I wanted to look for you, but I couldn't find you. Bailey Jing smiled. I saw that you were sleeping soundly, so I didn't want to disturb you. I was afraid that you would be hungry when you woke up, so I bought some porridge for you. She suddenly leaned over to Xia Dong's ear and whispered, Actually, Big Brother asked me to buy it. The door of the ward was suddenly pulled open from the inside. Bailey Han appeared at the door and naturally put his arm around Xia Dong's shoulder. He said softly, You're awake. Are you hungry? Jing bought some porridge for you. Xia Dong poked his arm with her left hand, motioning him to move away. Bailey Jing smirked. Xia Dong smiled embarrassedly. Thank you, Jing. Bailey Jing raised her eyebrows. Don't mention it. Her eyes fell on Xia Dong's hand. Sister-in-law, does your hand still hurt? It's much better. Let's go in and talk. Bailey Han moved his arm away from Xia Dong's shoulder and put it around her waist. Su Yunxian saw them walk in intimately and her tears immediately fell. She cried and said, Pretty sister, I didn't do it on purpose. I really don't know why I have a dagger and why I hurt you. Xia Dong lowered her eyes and didn't say anything. It was impossible for her to say that it was okay in front of everyone and that she was willing to forgive Su Yunxian. It was okay for Su Yunxian to hurt her, but she shouldn't have targeted her child. Mrs. Su said, Xia Dong, I apologize to you on behalf of Yunxian. I hope you won't hold her responsible. You know Yunxian's current condition. She didn't do it on purpose. Xia Dong said mildly, Mrs. Su, are you sure that Miss Su hurt me because she was sick? Mrs. Su's expression changed. What do you mean by that? Xia Dong looked into her eyes and said seriously, I suspect that Miss Su is faking her illness. No, that's impossible. If Yunxian was faking her illness, why would she commit suicide by cutting her wrists? Mrs. Su was the person who interacted with Su Yunxian the most. She had watched her switch between several personalities and couldn't even remember what had just happened. Xia Dong glanced at the sobbing Su Yunxian and said mildly, It's possible that she's just trying to gain sympathy by injuring herself. The anger in Mrs. Su's heart surged, and she said angrily, Xiaodong, how can you say that about Yunxian? If you hadn't left her in the lurch, Yunxian wouldn't have been hurt. She suffered such a huge blow. Isn't it right for her to lose her mind? How can you make such malicious assumptions about her? Xia Dong gritted her teeth and was about to argue when the old madam suddenly coughed and said, Granddaughter-in-law, we all know about Yunxian's illness. I know that you misunderstood Yunxian because you were injured. Grandma, honey, Xia Dong had just said a few words when she was interrupted by Bailey Han. He said softly, Honey, you're tired. I'll take you home to rest. Han, you have to believe me. Xia Dong ignored the pain from her wound and anxiously grabbed his arm. Bailey Han said in a low voice, Honey, let's talk about it at home, okay? She could see the worry and anticipation in his deep eyes. In the end, she gave up on what she wanted to say and nodded mildly. Okay, let's go home. After returning home, Xia Dong still didn't give up. She analyzed to Bailey Han what was wrong with Su Yunxian, but he didn't agree with her. Instead, he held her in his arms and told her with a very tolerant expression and tone, Honey, you might have been frightened and made a mistake. The old madam also came to persuade Xia Dong not to think too much. She also said that she hoped that she could forgive Su Yunqian. After all, Su Yunqian was suffering from dissociative identity disorder and couldn't control her behavior. She didn't mean to hurt her. In fact, there was a deeper reason. Even if they didn't say it, Xia Dong knew that Bailey's family felt that Su Yunqian's kidnapping was caused by the Bailey's family. They were in the wrong, so no matter what Su Yunqian asked for or did, they wanted to treat her with a tolerant attitude. However, they didn't expect that such an unconditional attitude would hurt Xia Dong. They also didn't expect that Xia Dong would do something that they would regret. Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 237. Bailey Han was like a nanny, constantly watching Xia Dong's movements and not letting her use her right hand. When it came to eating, he fed her; when it came to bathing, he helped her wash; even when it came to changing clothes, he was the one who helped her. Xia Dong's expression remained indifferent and she didn't pay much attention to him. She would only respond with a few words when he forced her. When she went to bed that night, her back was also facing Bailey Han. Bailey Han hugged her from behind and said gently, "Honey, are you still angry?" Xia Dong didn't say anything and ignored him. She was quite angry. As her husband, he didn't believe her words at all. Although he didn't persuade her to forgive Su Yunqian with the old madam, his attitude made her very sad. "Honey, don't be angry. Otherwise, it's not good for the baby. The baby can understand mommy's feelings now and he will be angry with mommy." Bailey Han's right hand reached out to her abdomen and gently stroked it. He rubbed his head against her face in a fawning manner. She still ignored him and even turned her face away to avoid his head. "Honey, just for the baby, don't be angry anymore, okay?" His voice became more gentle and there was a hint of pleading in it. Xia Dong bit her lip and tears gradually appeared in her eyes. The cold tears dripped onto the back of Bailey Han's hand. He hugged her with heartache. "Honey, I was wrong. Don't be sad. You weren't wrong. I was the one who was wrong." Xia Dong closed her eyes and a few drops of tears rolled down her face again. "Don't cry. My heart is in a mess when you cry." Bailey Han gently turned her shoulders and made her face him. Seeing her teary eyes, his heart suddenly ached. He raised his hand and gently wiped away the tears on her face. "Honey, I know you've suffered a lot. I've wronged you. You can scold me or hit me, but don't be angry anymore." Xia Dong bit her lip and didn't say anything. He raised her left hand and suddenly slapped his face. She didn't expect him to really let her hit him. She panicked and her tears fell even harder. "What are you doing? Did I say I was going to hit you?" He kissed the back of her hand. "Honey, as long as you're not angry anymore, you can punch me a few more times." Xia Dong didn't want to talk to him, but when she saw his deep eyes and his loving expression, she couldn't bear it anymore. She raised her injured right hand and stroked his cheek. "Does it hurt?" "It doesn't hurt." He hugged her tightly. "Honey, trust me. I will never let anyone hurt you again." Although Xia Dong leaned on his warm embrace, her heart did not become warm. She did not believe that as long as Bailey Han felt guilty towards Su Yunqian, there would be a gap between them that could not be crossed. Her stomach suddenly hurt. The feeling of falling and swelling made her frown. She lay in his arms, clutching his bathrobe tightly. Her body stiffened as she endured the pain. Bailey Han was keenly aware of it. He stroked her back and said softly, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" "No, I'm just a little cold." "Han, hold me tight." Xia Dong's voice was a little hoarse. In a place where he couldn't see, her face had already turned pale. "Okay." Bailey Han reached out to raise the temperature of the air conditioner. Then he hugged her tightly in his arms, carefully avoiding her stomach. After about 5 to 6 minutes, the pain finally subsided. Xia Dong let out a long sigh of relief. The next day, Xia Dong went to the hospital for a checkup. Lin Shihao said that her condition was worsening and asked her to control her emotions, not to get angry and not to get agitated. She looked down and asked, Shihao, with my current condition, can I last until the 40th week? Lin Shihao's expression was serious. Actually, you only need to wait until the 35th week for the baby to survive. With your current condition, if you actively cooperate with the treatment, you can last until then. But you must pay attention to control your emotions and maintain a positive attitude. Otherwise, your condition will continue to worsen. After coming out of the office, Lin Shihao's voice kept echoing in her mind. She had to control her emotions and maintain a positive attitude. Both of these seemed to be very difficult for her. Xia Dong sat in the hospital garden in a daze. She didn't know how long she had been sitting there for, but her phone suddenly rang. It was Bailey Han. His voice was very gentle. Honey, where are you now? Xia Dong looked up at the patients coming and going around and smiled. I'm outside with Siki. You can't carry heavy things with your hands. Be careful, okay? Okay, I know. Is there anything else? He hesitated for a moment and said, after work today, I have to go to the hospital first. I'll try to come back early. Xia Dong leaned back in the chair dejectedly. She felt that the temperature was very low today and she was very cold. Okay, I got it. Go ahead. He gave her a lot of advice, but she didn't listen. Her mind was filled with the scene of him accompanying Su Yunqian in the hospital. If Su Yunqian was really sick, she wouldn't be jealous. But Su Yunqian was faking it. Why was no one willing to believe her? Xia Dong sat in a cafe next to the hospital and called Yi Siki. Siki, can you come out and keep me company? In less than an hour, Yi Siki rushed over from home. What's wrong? What happened? Xia Dong used her left hand to place the hot drink she had ordered in front of her. She said slowly, Siki, I want to run away from home. Yi Siki was so shocked that she almost jumped up. She suppressed her anger and growled, run away from home? You're crazy. Xia Dong smiled bitterly. I'm not crazy. I'm just afraid that if I continue to stay here, I'll really go crazy. Siki, I can't take it anymore. What the hell is going on? You're not the type to give up so easily. Xia Dong picked up her right hand that was hidden under the table and placed it on the table. Yi Siki's eyes narrowed. Your right hand is injured. Who did this? It was Su Yunqian. Xia Dong paused and said, I suspect that she's pretending to be mentally ill. Xia Dong told Yi Siki in detail about how Su Yunqian had injured her yesterday. Finally, she concluded, I don't believe that a person with a split personality can be so clear-headed. Also, her last sentence was said with an innocent personality. I can only think of one explanation for her switching between personalities so quickly. She's pretending to be crazy. Yi Siki looked furious. I knew that woman was up to no good. I didn't expect that she would come up with the idea of pretending to be crazy. Did you tell Bailey Han about this? Xia Dong rubbed her eyebrows. I did. I told everyone at home, but they didn't believe me. Han thought that I was mistaken, but I'm sure that I wasn't mistaken. Yi Siki angrily punched the table and scolded Bailey Han. After a while, she said, although I believe what you said, it's too rash of you to leave home just because of this. It's not just this. Xia Dong sighed. Han's memory is very unstable and he's not in a good state of mind. A few days ago, he forgot about me again and even had a big fight with me. I really feel terrible. Do you know that? I knew that Su Yunqian was faking her illness, but I still had to see her being intimate with Han. I can't do it. As she spoke, she started to sob. Yi Siki sat beside her and put his arm around her shoulders. Xia Dong tried hard to control her emotions. She pursed her lips and continued, my condition is worsening. I can't be agitated or angry. If I want to hold on until I give birth to the child and have the surgery, I have to control my condition. Yisiki finally understood Xia Dong's current situation. She had uterine fibroids but hid it from everyone. She originally wanted to give birth to the child and have the surgery, but the things that happened at home made it difficult for her to control her emotions. Her condition kept worsening, so it would be very difficult for her to hold on until the day of the C-section. Yisiki thought for a long time and said in a deep voice, "If you suddenly leave home, will Bailey Han be agitated and his condition worsen? What about the 3 children, especially Gigai? I think you should tell your family about your condition. We can discuss how to create a better atmosphere. I'll find an excuse. I'll say that I'm going to Italy to visit Godfather and that I'm waiting to give birth there. I'll bring Xiao Guai along and have the surgery for her. Godfather has already arranged a hospital for Xiao Guai anyway." She laughed self-deprecatingly. "Strictly speaking, this isn't considered running away from home. I'm just going abroad to relax. Do you think Bailey Han will agree? I'll act first and report later. What if he goes to Italy to look for you?" Xia Dong laughed. "He doesn't know Godfather's address. If Godfather is easily found by others, he doesn't deserve to be called the father of the mafia." Yisiki looked at her. "Are you really not going to think about it? This is the best idea I can think of so far. Why don't you tell Bailey Han the truth? I think this is the best idea. With his feelings for you, if you tell him about your condition, he'll definitely create the best atmosphere for you." Xia Dong smiled bitterly. "Yi, between the fact that I'm seriously ill and on the brink of death or the fact that I'm going abroad to relax, which one do you think will stimulate Ahan more?" She made this decision not only for the baby and Gigai in her belly, but also for Bailey Han. Yisiki sighed. "Okay, maybe your idea is the best." Although Xia Dong was very calm in front of Yisiki and analyzed the situation clearly, when it came to making a decision, she still hesitated. That night, she called Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao to her side and said, "Xiao Yi, Xiao Bao, Mommy has something to ask of you." "What's the matter, Mommy?" Xia Dong smiled and said, "Mommy may take Gigai to Italy tomorrow to visit your godgrandfather. Mommy will also wait for delivery there until Gigai's illness is cured. Mommy wants to ask of you to be good children and wait for Mommy to come back, okay?" Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 238. Little Wingzy had a serious expression on his face. "Mommy, will Daddy go with you?" Xia Dong smiled. "This is the second thing Mommy wants you to do. Don't tell Daddy. If you know about this, I will take Gigai abroad alone." "Mom, why did you suddenly make such a decision? Did something happen? Did Daddy hurt you?" Xiao Bao stared at her with his dark eyes. "No, don't think too much. Bao Bao, you know that your god-grandfather has already contacted a hospital for Gigai. I'm going abroad mainly to wait for the delivery and then treat Gigai." Xia Dong tried to persuade her 2 sons, but it was not so easy to deceive her 2 genius sons. Xiao Yi's little face darkened and he suddenly hugged her leg. "Mommy, are you going to abandon us again?" Xia Dong's heart ached and she hugged him tightly. "Silly son, why would I abandon you? Mommy will be back soon." "Then why can't Daddy know?" The little boy refused to give up. "If I tell you in advance, Daddy will definitely not agree." Xia Dong stroked Xiao Yi's head and said softly, "Your daddy is already working hard. Mommy doesn't want him to work harder. After I leave, I will tell him that I went to Italy." Xiao Bao suddenly said, "Mom, are you angry because Dad has been taking care of Su Yunqian recently?" "Of course not." Xia Dong hugged Xiao Bao and said softly, "Xiao Bao, Xiao Yi, your daddy's health is not good. Because of the after effects of the car accident, he often faints and even has headaches. Don't talk back to him. Gigai, listen to him. Don't make Mommy worry, okay? Mommy, can you stay?" Xiao Yi puffed up her cheeks, her eyes filled with anticipation. Xia Dong kissed him on the cheek. I'm sorry, Xiao Yi. Mommy has to go, but Mommy promises that I'll contact you every day, as if Mommy is still by your side. Although the two children were extremely unwilling, they were still convinced by Xia Dong. After all, Xiao Guai was their very important sister, and they didn't want anything to happen to her. After the three of them finished their discussion, Xia Dong went back to her room. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao stared at each other in silence. Xiao Bao jumped onto her bed and said, Xiao Yi, I don't think things are that simple. What do you think? Xiao Yi also jumped onto the bed and sat next to him. She said with a fierce expression, I suspect that Mommy is angry. Her hand was stabbed by that bad woman. Great-grandma and grandma all advised Mommy not to make things difficult for that bad woman. Even I'm angry. Xiao Bao puffed up her cheeks and snorted. Also, Dad's attitude is very infuriating. Although he didn't stand on Great-grandma's side, he didn't support Mom either. People who stand in the middle are the most annoying. Yes, Daddy has disappointed me this time. Although Xiao Yi sided with Daddy, she had to admit that Xiao Bao's words made sense. Her little face darkened. Xiao Bao snorted. That's why we have to help Mom punish them. Xiao Yi continued, we'll listen to Mommy and pretend that we didn't know that she would leave. Then, we'll secretly contact her and not tell the rest of the family. Yes. Xiao Bao rubbed her little chin. Her eyes shone with an inexplicable light. Not only that, I'll make Su Yunqian pay the price. That bad woman is too hateful. Xiao Yi thought for a moment and said, Mommy said that Su Yunqian was pretending to be crazy. We can start from this. As long as we find evidence, we can expose her in front of everyone. Xiao Bao blinked her big eyes. Yes, yes. She's lying in the hospital every day. If we want to find evidence, we can only start from the hospital. I have to prepare the listening device, pinhole camera, and the like. Xiao Yi's lips curled. How do you plan to arrange her into the ward? I have a good idea. Xiao Yi waved her hand. Xiao Bao leaned over and whispered something into Xiao Bao's ear. Yes, yes. That's a good idea. Let's hurry up and prepare. The two little guys began to prepare in full swing. After rummaging for a long time, they found a beautiful porcelain vase with two big ears. The mouth of the vase was just big enough to accommodate a child's hand. Xiao Yi fixed the listening device that Xiao Bao brought to the ears of the vase and covered the entrance with a layer of film to hide the listening device. Unless the vase was smashed, no one would discover that there was a listening device hidden inside. Xiao Yi carried the porcelain vase to Bei Li Han. Daddy, you're going to visit Auntie Yunqian tomorrow. Can you help me give this gift to her? Bei Li Han smiled and said, why did you suddenly think of giving Auntie Yunqian a gift? Xiao Yi lowered her head in embarrassment. I made this myself in art class. Auntie Yunqian used to treat me very well. Now that she's sick, I haven't visited her, so I want to give her a gift. Xiao Yi is so sensible. Don't worry, Daddy will send your gift tomorrow. Bei Li Han looked at the vase carefully. The craftsmanship was a little rough and there was a bit of childlike innocence. Overall, it was still very beautiful. Most importantly, he was very happy that the child had such a thought. Thank you, Daddy. I'll go back and rest first. Good night, Daddy. Okay, good night. Xia Dong had already applied for a visa when she was preparing to go to Italy last time, so the procedures this time were very simple. She only needed to book the plane ticket. She thought for a long time and decided not to tell Mika Keto for the time being. She didn't want to trouble him anymore. After taking a shower, she sat at the head of the bed and waited for Bei Li Han to come out of the bathroom. This night would be the last night they spent together for half a year. Xia Dong wanted to make it unforgettable. Bei Li Han was wrapped in a bathrobe and sat beside her. He combed her long hair with his fingers. Why aren't you sleeping yet? I'm waiting for you. Xia Dong wrapped her arms around Bei Li Han's neck and leaned her face on his chest. Then rest early. You're tired too. I'm not tired. I don't want to sleep yet. Xia Dong smelled the scent of Bailey Han's shower. It was a light fragrance and there was a masculine air unique to men. The corners of her lips curled up. Her left hand slowly slid down and slowly kneaded his chest. Bailey Han's throat moved. He grabbed her hand and his eyes were deep. Honey, don't play with fire. She raised her beautiful eyes. Her beautiful face had a hint of charm, like a demon fox deep in the mountains. She wrapped around his body and laughed softly. Hubby, I want you to play with fire with me. She had never taken the initiative like this before. Bailey Han was a little surprised. He laughed softly. You're not allowed to beg for mercy later. Which time did she not beg for mercy in the end? Xia Dong's cheeks turned red. She hugged his neck angrily. I won't. She kissed his lips without a care. The moment her lips touched Bailey Han's lips, he was completely conquered. He took the initiative. He cupped the back of her head and deepened the kiss. Bailey Han's heavy breathing hit Xia Dong's cheek. His tall nose was pressed tightly against the tip of her nose. Xia Dong closed her eyes tightly and welcomed his kiss with all her heart. Bailey Han sucked on her soft lips as if they were the most precious treasure in the world. Her breathing became faster and faster. She slowly opened her red lips. His tongue invaded and entangled with hers. He held her waist with one hand and the back of her head with the other. Xia Dong only felt that she was fully wrapped up. Her heart gradually ached. After this separation, they would not see each other for at least half a year. She would definitely miss him. So now, she had to devote herself to him. She had to remember his taste, his breath, and the happiness he brought her. The past was like a movie, intertwining in her mind. She remembered his exasperated roar when he applied medicine for her in Bali. She remembered that when they were on a deserted island, he carried her on his back in the rain. She remembered his disdainful and angry expression when she purposely approached him. She remembered that in order not to hurt her, he knocked his head until it was bleeding. She also remembered that when he forced her to marry him, he was incomparably domineering. She had never dared to believe in love and marriage. It was he who used practical actions to weave a sweet trap and made her deeply fall into it. She already loved him to the bone and she could not leave him. However, for the baby in her belly and Xiao Guai, she had to make a painful decision. Tears blurred her eyes and slowly fell down. Bailey Han also tasted the bitter taste. He lifted her chin and saw the tears in her beautiful eyes. His heart ached. He moved his lips forward and kissed away the tears on her cheeks with extreme gentleness. Then, he slowly returned to her lips. Their soft lips pressed against each other for a long time, unwilling to leave. They did not separate until they were both a little out of breath. Xia Dong's right hand was still wrapped in gauze, so she could only move her left hand. She pushed him onto the bed and wanted to lean over to kiss him, but her belly was in the middle and she could not touch him at all. A smile appeared in Bailey Han's eyes as he looked forward to the surprise she was about to give him. His body was very perfect. Her hand moved from his chest all the way down to his bulging abs. She carefully stroked them. They were hard and made her cheeks heat up. Her mind could not help but think of the charming scene of his solid abs hitting her when he pressed her under his body. She quickly restrained her thoughts, but her eyes could not help but see the burning desire in his eyes. Her cheeks were red, and she did not know where to look. She coughed and said, "Hubby, close your eyes first." Bailey Han chuckled softly and closed his eyes as he was told. Without those two burning gazes, Xia Dong raised her body slightly and sat on his waist. Her left hand trembled as she stroked the thing that had been pressing against her. Her body was already burning with flames, but the depths of her soul were empty, as if she was thirsting for something. The big hand that kept stroking her waist seemed to be silently urging her. Xia Dong's throat was dry. She held his desire and moved her body to sit on top of him. Beauty Novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 239. In the end, Xia Dong was so tired that she couldn't even open her eyes. She only knew that Bailey Han carried her into the bathroom. He gently washed her body and then carried her back to the bed. He held her in his arms and kissed her earlobe. He whispered in her ear, "Honey, I like you very much tonight." All of her tiredness dissipated because of this sentence. Her heart trembled and 2 drops of tears slowly flowed down from the corners of her tightly shut eyes. "Hubby, forgive me. I have to be a deserter." She said over and over in her heart, "Hubby, I'm sorry. Hubby, I love you." When Xia Dong woke up in the morning, Bailey Han had already changed his clothes and was about to go downstairs for breakfast. He bent down and kissed her forehead. He said softly, "Honey, you're tired. Sleep a little longer." "Hubby, I want to look at you more." Xia Dong crawled out from under the covers and hooked her arms around his neck. Her reluctant gaze slowly moved down from his smooth and full forehead. His deep eyes, high nose, sexy thin lips, sharp chin, and perfect face. She wanted to engrave him deeply in her heart. "My husband is so handsome. Let's go to the company." Xia Dong smiled and touched his handsome face. "Okay, I'll be back early tonight." Bailey Han chuckled and kissed her lips. After Bailey Han left, Xia Dong slowly got out of bed. She stood by the balcony and watched Bailey Han drive away. Her eyes were sore, but she held it in and didn't cry. She took out a pen and paper and wrote a short letter for the old madam. She also wrote a short letter for Bailey Han. Xia Dong went downstairs. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao had already finished eating and were sitting on the sofa waiting for her. She walked in front of them and touched their heads. She said softly, "Xiao Yi, Xiao Bao, remember what mommy told you last night?" "Got it." The 2 little ones nodded in unison. "That's good. Gigai, be good and take care of yourself. Don't let mommy worry." Xia Dong hugged them tightly. "Got it." In the living room, it was inconvenient to say anything unnecessary. The 2 children leaned in her arms, their eyes glistening with tears, but they quickly suppressed them. Xia Dong held their little hands and sent them to the car. Then, she stood at the side and watched the car drive away. She saw the 2 children sitting in the back seat waving their little hands. She also waved until they could no longer be seen. After tidying up her things, Xia Dong made an excuse to take Gigai out for a walk. Carrying a small backpack and holding Gigai's hand, she said goodbye to the old madam and others and got into her BMW. The BMW drove all the way to the airport. Xiao Guai asked curiously, "Mommy, why are we at the airport? Are we here to pick someone up?" Xia Dong held her little hand and got out of the car. "Gigai, we're going to Italy to see God-grandfather. Brother Yi, and Daddy, aren't they going?" "Yeah, it's just the 2 of us." Hearing this, the little girl stopped in her tracks and pouted pitifully. "But I haven't said goodbye to Daddy and my 2 brothers." Xia Dong bent over and looked at her. "Gigai, Mommy promises that we'll be back very soon." "Oh." Xiao Guai's eyes were filled with tears. She looked very pitiful. Xia, I'm here." Suddenly, Yi Siki's voice sounded. Xia Dong turned around and saw Yi Siki standing not far from them. Yi Siki said again, "Don't move. Wait for me to come over and find you." Soon, Yi Siki crossed the pedestrian crossing and ran over. Xia Dong handed her the keys to the BMW. "Yezi, these are my car keys and the keys to the house. I'll leave them in your care." "Okay. Remember to call me when you and Gigai arrive in Italy." Yi Siki reached out and hugged her. Xia Dong nodded vigorously. "I will. Yezi, remember to call me if anything happens to you." "Okay." Yi Siki bent over and hugged Gigai. She kissed her soft cheek and said with a smile, "Gigai, you have to listen to Mommy when you're overseas with me. Get well soon. We'll all miss you very, very much." "I know, Auntie Siki." Xiao Guai kissed her on the cheek obediently. Under Yi Siqi's gaze, Xia Dong held Xiao Guai's little hand and walked step by step toward the boarding gate. They found a seat in the first-class cabin. The stewardess helped carry Xiao Guai to the seat and buckled her seatbelt. Her little body leaned against the soft pillows. She wore a cute woolen hat, which made her little face look even cuter. She looked up at Xia Dong and said softly, "Mommy, I miss Daddy, Brother, and Brother Yi." "Gigai, Mommy promises that I'll be back very soon," Xia Dong said gently as she stroked her head. "Okay." Xiao Guai lowered her head unhappily. She didn't understand why Daddy and Brother Yi didn't go with them to Italy. In the afternoon, the butler was ordered to deliver the letter Xia Dong had left for the old madam to her. "Old madam, young madam asked me to give this to you." "Okay." The old madam opened the letter. When she saw the contents, her expression changed drastically. Her fingers trembled as she slammed the letter on the table. She said angrily, "Butler, why are you only giving me the letter now?" The butler was stunned and quickly explained, "Young madam instructed me to give it to you at 5 in the afternoon." The old madam's anger subsided slightly. She waved her hand tiredly and said, "You may leave." "Yes." The butler was confused. He left the room and closed the door. The old madam picked up the letter and carefully read its contents. Her eyes filled with tears. "Grandma, there's something that I've been hiding from everyone. Actually, I wanted to hide it from you, but I was afraid that you would misunderstand, so I decided to tell you. Please keep it from everyone else, including Ahan. More than half a month ago, I was diagnosed with uterine fibroids. The doctor said that if my condition is stable, I can hold on until the baby is around 35 weeks old. Then, I'll have a hysterectomy. Yesterday, I went to the hospital for another checkup. The doctor said that my condition is worsening. Because of my emotional fluctuations and the many things that happened at home, I can't calm down. So, I plan to bring Xiao Guai to Italy. Firstly, it's to nourish the baby. Secondly, it's to treat Xiao Guai's illness. Thirdly, I don't want to agitate Ahan because of my condition. Grandma, I'm leaving today. Please take good care of Xiao Yi, Xiao Bao, and Ahan. Lastly, please take care of yourself. You're the backbone of our family." The old madam read the letter word by word. Tears streamed down her face as she kept saying, "Silly girl, what a silly girl." In the evening, when Bailey Han returned home, Xia Dong didn't wait for him at the door as usual. He quickened his pace and went upstairs. When he opened the door, it was empty. The person he was expecting wasn't there. "Honey." He opened the bathroom door again. It was empty. He glanced around the room and suddenly found a piece of paper on the table. There was a pen on the paper. He strode over and picked up the paper. His expression changed drastically. "Honey, I'm taking Xiao Guai to Italy to visit Godfather. Godfather has arranged the best hospital for Xiao Guai, so we'll stay in Italy until Xiao Guai is cured. Honey, don't worry about us. Godfather will take good care of us. Honey, don't come looking for me. Take good care of Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao and wait for us to come back. Honey, I love you. I love you, my wife." Bailey Han almost stopped breathing. His blood seemed to have stopped flowing. His emotions were extremely complicated. Anger and sadness enveloped him tightly. He gripped the letter tightly. The anger in his heart soared. Damn it! How could she hide it from him and escape abroad with her daughter alone? How could she? Bailey Han was like a furious lion. He slammed his fist on the table and violently pushed everything on the table to the ground. The items rolled all over the floor. He took out his phone and dialed Xia Dong's number. He couldn't suppress his anger and his fingers trembled. A cold female voice responded, "Sorry, the number you have dialed is unavailable." Bang! The phone carried his anger and slammed on the floor. This was the first time he had lost control. He clenched his fists tightly and tried to suppress his anger. He stood there silently for about a minute. Suddenly, he rushed to the landline and dialed a number. Ahu, I'm leaving for Rome in 2 hours. You're in charge of getting the permit and visa. Young master, 2 hours is too tight, Bailey Han said coldly. I don't want to hear any excuses. What I want is results. I'm taking off from the international airport in 2 hours. Bailey's family's private jet rented a tarmac at the international airport. He didn't wait for Ahu to reply and hung up the phone with a bang. Bailey Han strode into the walk-in closet and dragged out his suitcase. He packed his luggage in a hurry. He took a few pieces of clothes and stuffed them into the suitcase. Then, he rummaged through his passport and other documents. The room was in a mess because of him. As a clean freak, he didn't seem to notice it at all. Ahan, what are you doing? Old Madame Gu stood at the door with her walking stick. She had asked the butler to keep an eye on Bailey Han. When Bailey Han's car drove into the garage, she received the news. I'm going to Italy. Bailey Han didn't even raise his head as he hurriedly packed his luggage. When old Madame Gu heard this, she knew that he already knew that Xia Dong was going abroad. She sighed and said, Ahan, Xia Dong is only going abroad to visit her relatives and treat Xiao Guai. She'll be back soon. Why are you going there now? Bailey Han closed his suitcase and straightened his body. He stared at old Madame Gu. Grandma, she's my wife. I can't let her and Xiao Guai be alone abroad. How can I be at ease when a pregnant woman and a child are alone? Then you're going to leave our whole family behind? Ahan, you're the head of our family. You have to take up the responsibility. Xia Dong has her godfather to take care of her. She'll be fine. Welfare, Xinwu 799. Chapter 240. Grandma, you don't have to persuade me. I've made up my mind. Bailey Han picked up his suitcase and said, Grandma, I won't say goodbye to Dad and Mom. Please help me tell them that I'm in a hurry and have to go. Stop right there. The old lady stomped her crutch and blocked the door. I won't allow you to leave. Grandma, please make way. Bailey Han's tall figure stood in front of the old lady and confronted her. No matter what, I'm going to Italy today. Then you'll have to step over my dead body. The old lady stared at him coldly with a gloomy face. Grandma, don't force me. Bailey Han frowned. The old lady snorted. Then let me ask you. Do you know where Xia Dong is in Italy? Italy is so big and you're not familiar with the place. How are you going to find her? Bailey Han's eyes narrowed. I know that Tomac is in Rome. Xia Dong will definitely go to find him. Do you think Rome is still small? The old lady glared at him. You're an adult, but you're still so impulsive. Do you think Rome is City a place where you can do whatever you want? Bailey Han was impatient and didn't think deeply. Now that he was scolded by the old lady, he felt quite uncomfortable. His thin lips were pursed and his face was cold. The old lady's tone softened. I'm not stopping you from finding Xia Dong. But if you go to Italy rashly, not only will you not be able to find Xia Dong, but you'll also be wasting time and energy. How about this? You can find a way to find Tomac's whereabouts in the country first. For example, Mika Kito. Isn't he Tomac's adopted son? He must know where Tomac lives. When you find the place, you can go and pick up Xia Dong and her mother. Bailey Han's thin lips were pursed and he remained silent. The old lady struck while the iron was hot. As for Yunxian, you have to visit her in the hospital every day. You can't leave her alone. Bailey Han clenched his fists and said calmly, I won't go there anymore. The old madam was shocked. What do you mean? I want to find Xia Dong's whereabouts. I won't go to the hospital again. Bailey Han knew very well that Xia Dong suddenly took her daughter to Italy. It must have something to do with Su Yunxian. Su Yunxian stabbed her hand, and the whole family persuaded her to forgive Su Yunxian. She must be very sad. Bailey Han felt that he was such a jerk that he didn't speak up for her. He wanted to slap himself a few times. The family members came home one after another. When they heard that Xia Dong took Xiao Guai to Italy, everyone was shocked, including Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao. The two of them even pretended to cry, crying for Mommy. Bailey Han's heart ached. He hugged them tightly, one in each hand, and promised them that he would bring their mommy back. He didn't know that at an angle that he couldn't see, Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao were pinching each other's arms and looking at each other with disdain. Hey, we've overacted, bro. Late at night, standing in the empty room, Bailey Han didn't feel sleepy at all. He still couldn't believe that Xia Dong actually left him. Although she said it was to visit family and to treat Xiao Guai's illness, he knew that she left because she was heartbroken. Otherwise, she wouldn't have acted first and reported later. She was acting so strangely last night. He should have noticed that something was wrong. D****, he was so annoyed and hated himself to the extreme. Bailey Han lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. His mind was filled with Xia Dong's figure. He was worried about the baby in her stomach, worried about Xiao Guai's health, and worried about whether they could withstand the long-distance flight. In the end, he simply sat up from the bed, turned on his phone, and called her number. Her phone was still turned off, so she might still be on the plane. He wrote a text message after text message, but he felt that it was inappropriate, so he deleted all of them and wrote a new one. In the end, he only sent a short sentence, "Honey, I miss you so much." It was past 7:00 in the evening in Rome. The plane arrived at its destination. Xia Dong woke Xiao Guai up from her sleep. The mother and daughter held hands and set foot on this foreign land. At the exit, a man in a black suit was holding a large sign with the words Xia Dong written in Chinese. Xia Dong held Xiao Guai's hand and walked over unhurriedly. She smiled and said in Italian, "Hello, I'm Xia Dong. Miss, my name is Andrew. Welcome to Rome." The blonde foreign man revealed a bright smile. "This must be Miss Gigai. So cute." Xiao Guai raised her cute little face and smiled sweetly. She also said in Italian, "Thank you, uncle." Andrew smiled and said, "Miss, let me help you with your luggage. Our car is waiting outside the airport. Please follow me." "Okay, sorry to trouble you." Xia Dong held Xiao Guai's hand and followed beside him. After exiting the airport lobby, they walked for about 50 meters. A Rolls-Royce stopped by the roadside. When the group of people saw them, someone immediately got out of the car and opened the door. He bowed respectfully and said, "Miss, Little Mississippi." Xia Dong smiled and responded. Andrew carried Xiao Guai into the car. Xia Dong also bent down and got in. The car started. Xia Dong took out her phone from her handbag. After turning it on, she saw messages from Yisiki and Bailey Han. Yisiki asked, "Have you arrived?" Xia Dong replied, "I just got off the plane. I'll call you after I change my SIM card." Xia Dong opened Bailey Han's message. He said, "Honey, I miss you very much." She sniffled and tears welled up in her eyes. Her fingers trembled. After a long while, she finally wrote, "Hubby, Gigai and I are doing well. We miss you very much too. Wait for me to come back." Beep beep. Her phone rang. Bailey Han had stayed up all night waiting for this moment. He quickly took the phone from beside his pillow and turned it on. When he saw Xia Dong's reply, he calmed down and immediately dialed her number. When she saw that it was Bailey Han calling, Xia Dong hesitated for a moment before answering. She put the phone to her ear and did not speak. On the other end, Bailey Han did not speak either. Xiao Guai tugged at her sleeve and asked in a childish voice, "Mommy, is that Daddy calling?" Xia Dong bit her lip and said softly, "Hubby, Gigai wants to talk to you." "Okay." His voice sounded extremely low. "Daddy, I miss you so much." Xiao Guai picked up the phone and cried. Hearing his daughter's cries, Bailey Han's heart was about to break. Gigai, don't cry. Daddy misses you too. Tell Daddy, where are you and Mommy now? Xiao Guai wiped the tears on her face with the back of her hand and sobbed, I don't know. We just got off the plane. Mommy said that we were going to God-grandfather's house. Bailey Han asked, does Gigai know where God-grandfather lives? I don't remember the name. Xiao Guai was a child after all. Although she could understand simple Italian and speak a few sentences, it was still difficult for her to remember the complicated names of places. Bailey Han said gently, it's okay. Daddy will definitely find Gigai and Mommy. Xiao Guai nodded heavily. After comforting her daughter for a while, the phone returned to Xia Dong's hand. Her voice was a little dry. Hubby, don't come looking for me. After I give birth to the baby and Xiao Guai has the surgery, we'll go back. Bailey Han had a lot to say and a lot of questions to ask her, but when he really faced her, he only said one sentence. Honey, take good care of yourself and Xiao Guai. I love you. Xia Dong's tears rolled down from her eyes. She choked and said, I love you too. There was a beeping sound from the phone. International roaming and long-distance calls were ridiculously expensive. Her phone was out of money. She took a deep breath and said softly, Hubby, my phone is almost out of money. I'll hang up first. Okay. Bailey Han had originally planned to end the call first, and then he would immediately help her top up the phone bill. Unexpectedly, after he had done so, he could no longer get through to her phone. She was like a kite, disappearing from his world. The Rolls-Royce sped on the road at a very fast speed. About an hour later, it drove out of the city and turned into a remote road. After driving for nearly half an hour, a tall iron gate and a seemingly endless tall wall appeared in front of them. The car drove into a manor that looked like a forest park. A tall European castle appeared in front of them. The whole castle was brightly lit, and the inside of the manor was also lit up to welcome the arrival of Xia Dong and her daughter. This was the Ortun Manor. Nominally, it was the territory of a British earl. In fact, the boss was the kingdom of Tomac, the father of the Italian mafia. The manor was very spacious. After the big iron gate was opened, a long welcome road led to the castle. Uniformed guards stood on both sides of the road and bowed respectfully when the Rolls-Royce passed by. The car stopped at the entrance of the castle, and two teams of uniformed servants were already waiting for them. Andrew got out of the car first and opened the door for Xia Dong. Andrew bent down and carried Xiao Guai out of the car. Another bodyguard stepped forward and held Xia Dong's hand as they walked out of the car. Mademoiselle, little mademoiselle, welcome back, the servants greeted them in perfect Italian. Thank you. Xia Dong responded with a smile. A white-haired foreign man in his 50s said with a smile, Miss, little miss, you're finally back. Robert, long time no see. Xia Dong smiled and hugged him. Yes, we haven't seen each other for a year. Little miss has grown so tall. Robert sighed. His eyes fell on her belly and he exclaimed, Oh, miss, the baby is so big. Yes, that's why I came to Rome to wait for delivery. Xia Dong smiled and shrugged. Miss, little miss, the boss has been waiting for you for a long time. Let's go in first. Robert was Tomac's most trusted subordinate and also his right-hand man. The interior of the castle was astonishingly large. The decoration was a combination of Chinese and Western. Amid the extravagance of the aristocracy, there was a strong Oriental flavor, noble and elegant. Robert and Xia Dong walked in front, while Andrew carried Xiao Guai and walked behind them. They passed through the spacious hall, walked up the quaint and elegant stairs, stepped on the thick Persian carpet, passed through the corridor hung with oil paintings, and finally stopped in front of two heavy oak doors. Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 241. Robert smiled and said, Miss, the boss is in the study. Okay, thank you. Xia Dong held the doorknob and pushed the door open. The first thing she saw was rows of wooden bookshelves. Rather than calling it a study, it was more appropriate to call it a small library. It was at least 200 to 300 square meters in size. The fragrance of ink permeated the entire room. The huge floor-to-ceiling windows were covered by thick curtains. A tall wooden table was placed in front of 2 rows of ancient bookshelves, and a tall figure sat in front of the table. He was about 60 years old, with a head full of silver hair and a few wrinkles at the corners of his eyes. He had light blue eyes and a high nose bridge. The tip of his nose was slightly curved downwards. When he was not smiling, he looked a little cold. Although this face was full of vicissitudes of life, it could not hide his charming charm. He was Tomac, the person who made the entire Italian mafia tremble in fear. He single-handedly founded the world's largest firearms organization, the Dark Knight. Tomac stood up. "Look who's here, my lovely Xia Xia and Gigai." He opened his arms with a bright smile on his face. Godfather, God-grandfather, Xia Dong and Xiao Guai both walked towards him, one hugging his waist and the other hugging his leg. "You two little things, you haven't come to see me for so long. This old man is very lonely." Tomac patted Xia Dong's back, then bent down to pick up Xiao Guai. He rubbed his cheek against her cute little face and said in fluent Chinese, "Gigai, do you miss God-grandfather?" "Yes." Xiao Guai loudly kissed Tomac's cheek and nodded heavily. Tomac beamed. "How much do you miss him?" "Very, very much. I miss him so much that my hair is about to fall out." Xiao Guai playfully patted the little hat on her head and cutely stuck out her tongue. Tomac laughed heartily. "Little one, you're becoming more and more glib, just like your brother. But I like it very much." Godfather, quickly put Xiao Guai down. "Don't tire yourself out." Tomac glared at her. "Xia Xia, I'm not an ordinary old man. Gigai's weight can't crush me." All right, I know you're amazing. Please sit down." Xia Dong held his shoulders and pushed him into the chair. She also sat down on the sofa beside him. "Godfather, I haven't seen you in so long. How are you?" "Very good. I even fought with the old man from the Fair family some time ago." Tomac proudly showed off. "Of course, I won." That old man bowed and admitted defeat on the spot. "Foster father, you're really vigorous despite your age." Tomac liked Eastern culture very much. He could understand the idioms used by Xia Dong, and he also liked to use idioms. "Of course, I was invincible back in the day." He couldn't stop talking about the things that had happened in the past. The three of them talked about a lot of happy things. Xiao Guai was a little sleepy, so Tomac asked the butler to send the mother and son to their room to rest. During breakfast the next day, Tomac asked about Bailey Han. Xia Dong looked at Xiao Guai and then explained her current situation in Italian. Tomac didn't say anything and directly asked someone to contact the hospital to send Xiao Guai in 2 days. As for Xia Dong, he also asked someone to contact the best doctor to treat her. Tomac smiled kindly. "Xia Xia, did you mention to Shen that you came to Rome?" Xia Dong shook her head. "I haven't told him yet." "That's your fault. If Shen finds out that you came to me, he'll definitely be angry with you." Xia Dong smiled bitterly. "I don't want to. I just don't know how to face him. Moreover, I don't want to trouble him anymore." Tomac looked serious. "You're wrong. Even if you don't accept Shen's feelings, you're still friends who are as close as siblings. You're also my family. There's no trouble between family members. This relationship that's thicker than blood should be maintained." Xia Dong was stunned. Her foster father was right. She liked to escape too much, and it insulted the relationship between her and Mika Keto. She said solemnly, "Foster father, I know what to do." Tomac smiled gently. "Very good. I've always thought highly of the two of you. I hope that the two of you can be as close as siblings in the future." Xia Dong's eyes were a little sore. She still remembered that not long after she and Mika Kito went to Japan, she signed up for a Japanese class at night in order to adapt to Japan as soon as possible. One night, when she returned home from class, she met an injured foreign old man in a dark alley. She saved the old man without hesitation. She carried him on her back and walked a kilometer to send him to the hospital. After that, Mika Kito found out that the old man she saved was Tomak, and Tomak was being chased by his enemies. Mika Kito didn't abandon them. Instead, she used the power of the Sanku group to protect them. Later, Tomak adopted Mika Kito and Xia Dong as his foster children. He didn't have any children of his own, only a nephew. He treated them like his own children. Under his instructions, the entire family respectfully addressed them as young master, and Mississippi Xia Dong had spent her days in Rome, just like a princess in a fairy tale. She had also obtained the fatherly love that she had lost for many years from Tomak, so she had always respected and loved him like a father. Tomak waved his hand, and Robert walked forward with a tray in both hands. Tomak reached out, picked up the keys on the tray, and placed them in front of Xia Dong. He smiled and said, Xia, I didn't prepare a gift for you when you got married, so I'll make it up to you now. These are the keys to a villa and a car. The villa is near the hospital where Gigai is staying, so it'll be convenient for you to take care of her. Thank you, foster father. Xia Dong hugged him emotionally. Silly girl. Tomak sighed. I haven't seen you for a year, and I didn't expect so many things to happen. Gigai has grown a lot taller, and you're married. It seems that I'm really old. No, you're not old at all. Otherwise, how could Uncle Sam be defeated by you? Sam was the person that Tomak had mentioned last night. He was the head of the Phil family. Tomak laughed loudly. After breakfast, Andrew drove Xia Dong and Xiao Guai to the hospital that they had booked. The hospital was located in the suburbs, and the transportation was convenient. The surrounding environment was very good, and the high-class ward was very luxurious. It was many times better than the hospitals in China. The lobby of the public area was like the living room of a luxurious villa, luxuriously decorated. Xia Dong chatted with the attending doctor about Xiao Guai's condition. After learning about the various facilities in the hospital, she was very satisfied. She planned to send Xiao Guai in 2 days. After walking out of the hospital, Andrew drove them through a block and parked the car in front of a detached villa. He smiled and introduced, Miss, this is the villa that boss bought for you. The villa was very beautiful. It was decorated in a European style, with a garden and a swimming pool. There was a brand new luxury car parked in the garage. Xia Dong was very moved. Andrew, help me thank foster father. I like the gift. Okay, Mississippi. Andrew left 2 bodyguards to secretly protect Xia Dong and Xiao Guai. He drove back to the castle to report. There were 2 maids in the villa, both of whom had been transferred from the castle by Tomak. They had undergone strict training and were quite skilled. They had already tidied up the villa. It was as if they were invisible. Whenever there was a need, they would immediately appear in front of him. Xia Dong stood on the balcony and watched the maids busy downstairs in the garden. She took out the new phone that Andrew had prepared for her and dialed a number. Who is this? Mika Kito saw the area code and knew that the call was from Italy, so she deliberately used Italian. Xia Dong paused and said in Chinese, Brother Shen, it's me. Why did you go to Italy? Mika Kito frowned. She was already more than 5 months pregnant. Why was she still running around? Xia Dong smiled. I'm here to wait for the delivery. Foster father has already arranged the best hospital for Xiao Guai. Mika Kito's eyes moved. She said in a deep voice, Did Bailey Han go with you? No. Did you have a conflict with him? No. He frowned and suppressed his anger in his voice. If not, why did you suddenly go to Italy? Can you bear to part with Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao? Tell me the truth. Xia Dong scratched the balcony with her fingers. I'm just a little tired, so I came here to relax. Brother Shen, please don't ask anymore, okay? She could hear his heavy breathing over the phone. Xia Dong could imagine him trying to suppress his anger at this moment. She said coquettishly as usual, Brother Shen, don't be angry. When you get angry, I'm in a bad mood. I'm pregnant now. The baby can feel my feelings, damn it. He wanted to fly to her side immediately, knock on her forehead, and ask her what was going on in her head. Mika Keto said slowly, okay, I'm not angry anymore. She smiled. Brother Shen, you're so nice. Mika Keto pursed her lips. After a while, she said, idiot. Xia Dong smiled, but her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She said softly, Brother Shen, if Bailey Han asks you about my whereabouts, you have to keep it a secret for me. Mika Keto paused for a moment and said, okay. Something must have happened between her and Bailey Han. It was just that she didn't want to tell him, so he didn't force her. Bailey Han was a man of his word. The next day, he refused to visit Su Yunxian at the hospital and focused all his attention on finding out Xia Dong's whereabouts. It was useless even if Su Yunxian made a scene, refused to eat, and refused to eat. No matter how many times Mrs. Su called Bailey Han, he refused and then asked Old Madam to deal with it. Old Madam knew that he was thinking about Xia Dong now, so she didn't make things difficult for him and decisively shouldered this heavy responsibility. It had been a week. It had been a whole week. Bailey Han didn't have any news about Xia Dong. He tried everything to contact her on her phone, email, MSA, and even the games she used to play. However, it was as if she had disappeared from the face of the earth. There was no trace of her. The people he sent to track her down also didn't have any information. Bailey Han was going crazy. Ad. Songshu 566. Chapter 242. Bailey Han had become gloomy and cold, as if he had just been fished out of an ice cellar. His entire body exuded a chilling aura. The employees of the company were all treading on thin ice as they lived in fear. Even at home, he was stingy and refused to smile. Only when he was facing Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi would his eyes show some warmth. His family had seen his changes. Not only were they worried about Xia Dong and Xiao Guai, but they were also worried about his condition. The entire old mansion was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere. Bailey Han barged into the CEO's office of the Bo Ao Group aggressively. Mika Keto looked at him coldly. What are you doing here? Bailey Han stared into his eyes. Tell me where Xia Dong is. I haven't come to you yet, and you still have the cheek to ask me. Tell me, why did Xia run away from home? Did you do something wrong to her? Mika Keto suddenly rushed over and grabbed Bailey Han's collar, her eyes blazing with anger. Bailey Han turned a deaf ear to his question and persistently asked, Tell me, where in Italy is Xia Dong? You bastard! Mika Keto waved her fist and punched him in the face. Bailey Han quickly dodged and quickly grabbed the fist that was swinging at him again. His eyes were burning with anger. Mika Keto, let me ask you, where is Xia Dong? If you want to know the answer, ask my fist first. The two men's arms were pressed against each other's necks. Their murderous gazes intertwined, and they couldn't wait to kill each other. They had been fighting for nearly half an hour, and the office was a mess. Both of them had different degrees of injuries on their bodies. Their clothes were messy and there was blood at the corners of their lips. However, the aura they exuded was still strong and cold, and their bloodthirsty eyes stared at each other furiously. Bailey Han's thin lips tightened. Where exactly is Xia Dong? The veins on Mika Keto's forehead throbbed. She could not help but curse, I don't have *king no either. Get out of here. Bailey Han stared fixedly into Bai Tang Tang's eyes as if he wanted to penetrate deep into Bai Tang Tang's heart. Bai Tang Shen also glared fiercely at Bailey Han. The two of them did not want to give in to each other. After 2 to 3 minutes of stalemate, Bailey Han suddenly pushed his arm away and said coldly, I will definitely find her. Mika Keto sneered. Since you have the ability to hurt her and force her to leave, why are you looking for her? Shut up. You don't understand anything at all. Bailey Han's eyes were red with anger. Humph, I only know that if it were me, no matter what, I would not harm her to this extent. Bailey Han retorted. It's a pity that Xia did not choose you. Mika Kito's anger suddenly soared. Like a furious lion, she wanted to pounce on him and tear him to pieces. However, she did not act. Instead, she dialed the internal line and said coldly, Jiang Dao, please ask the guest to leave. The next second, the office door opened. Jiang Dao reached out and gestured for him to leave. Mr. Bailey, please. Bailey Han straightened his clothes expressionlessly. Like a domineering and arrogant king, he walked out of the office with an aura of disdain for the world. Mika Kito was not lying. Xia Dong did not tell him where she lived. However, it was not difficult for him to find out where she lived. He only needed to call Tomac and he would know her whereabouts. However, he did not do so. Bailey Han was not the only one who was furious. Su Yunxian was also furious. She originally thought that after forcing Xia Dong away, Bailey Han would treat her wholeheartedly. She did not expect him to be so heartless. He did not care about her feelings at all and completely abandoned her in the hospital. For an entire week, he did not come to see her. Even when she called him, he gave her a perfunctory attitude. Even when she went on a hunger strike and tried to commit suicide, he did not care about her. This made her extremely disappointed and angry. She gritted her teeth in anger. She grabbed the porcelain vase with fresh flowers on the table and was about to smash it. However, she thought about it and put it down. This was a gift from Xiao Yi. She was counting on this broken vase to make a good impression in front of Bailey Han. When she was the only one left in the ward, she carefully checked the corridor outside and locked the door. She changed her SIM card and called a string of empty numbers. A minute later, her phone rang. The caller ID showed that it was a blocked number. A man's deep laughter came from the other end of the line. What's wrong? Do you miss me? Su Yunxian held back her disgusting desire and said coldly, Godfather, I want to talk about serious business. Oh, what serious business? You finally managed to trick Bailey Han. Not yet. Su Yunxian frowned. Things were going very smoothly. I had already gained everyone's trust. However, ever since Xia Dong ran away from home, things started to get out of hand. Bailey Han suddenly changed his attitude towards me. Didn't you say that if you let him see you being raped with his own eyes, he would feel guilty? Then you could use him to arouse his love for you. Why did he suddenly change? He doesn't feel guilty anymore. When Su Yunxian heard him mention the matter of rape, her beautiful eyes instantly burst out with bone-deep hatred. Her fingers trembled in anger as she coldly said, Don't mention the matter of rape to me again, you bastard. Didn't we agree to put on an act? You actually dared to use force on me. The Godfather's eyes were cold, and his lips curled into a sneer. I'm just trying to make the show more realistic. We're facing millions of people. If we're not careful, they'll see through us. I think you are waiting for an opportunity to take revenge. Su Yunxian was so angry that she was about to vomit blood. You said that the scars could be faked and the rape could be faked. Then what happened? You actually let people hit me for real. The scars on her body were all caused by her godfather's subordinates. At that time, that hateful man even comforted her, saying that it was just for the sake of making the act more realistic. Her godfather proudly raised his eyebrows, but the words that came out of his mouth were very calm. Don't get agitated. I have already explained that it was for the sake of making the act more realistic. After all, Bailey Han and the others are not to be trifled with. If the scars were fake, they would have been able to analyze it through technology. If you didn't really suffer a huge blow, how could you act so realistically as a mental patient? Am I right? Su Yunxian's chest rapidly rose and fell. She understood that what he said made sense, but the main reason was that bastard was using his position to avenge private wrongs. She had always been the one to abuse men. Since when did that stinking man dare to abuse her? That damned godfather, one day she would make him pay the price. However, right now, she still had a use for him. She couldn't completely break up with him. She took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. She said calmly, "All right, let's not talk about that anymore. Back to the main topic. I heard that Xia Dong went to Italy. I know who she is looking for and I can also find out where she lives. However, it's not convenient for my men to do it. I want you to go to Italy to deal with her." Her godfather sneered. "Since your men can find out where she is, why don't you do it? I remember that our agreement was to force Xia Dong out of Bailey's house before I do it. Now that you have forced her out of the country, this is beyond my expectations." Su Yunqian snorted coldly. "No matter what, she has left Bailey's house. Didn't you want to use her to deal with Mika Keto? This is a good opportunity." Her godfather was cunning. "I don't think it's that easy. Mika Keto is Tomac's adopted son. Tomac's nest is in Italy. You're sending me to the muzzle of a gun." Su Yunqian sneered. "Don't you have a lot of people who work for you? I know that you have connections with the Italian mafia. Tomac's Dark Knight family also has conflicts with other mafia families. Why don't you take advantage of their conflicts? Do you still need to do it yourself?" Her godfather's eyes narrowed. "I didn't expect you to know so many things." Su Yunqian chuckled. "It's useless no matter how much I know. I'm a woman after all. There are many things that I can't do. As a collaborator, aren't you willing to help me? I still need to think about this matter." "All right, I can only give you 1 day to think about it. Otherwise, when Bailey Han finds Xia Dong and brings her back to China, everything we have done will be in vain." Her godfather replied faintly, "Wait for my news." After ending the call, Su Yunqian leaned against the sofa. Her eyes were filled with hatred. She was about to make another call when the door suddenly rang. "Yunqian, it's Mommy. Why did you lock yourself in?" "It's okay, Mommy." Su Yunqian rubbed her eyes to make herself look haggard. Then, she opened the door. Mrs. Su saw her daughter's red eyes and couldn't help but feel sorry for her. "Mommy, is Han still not willing to visit me? What did I do wrong?" Su Yunqian hugged Mrs. Su and sobbed. "Yunqian, good girl. Don't be sad. Han is too busy to visit you." Mrs. Su gently patted her daughter's back and lied kindly. "Mommy, but I really want to see him." Hearing this, Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi couldn't hold back their anger anymore. The two little guys roared together, "Bad woman, bad woman. So annoying." The listening device hidden in the vase transmitted every word Su Yunqian said to their ears. Knowing that Su Yunqian set a trap to hurt their mommy, they really wanted to immediately rush over and beat her up. Xiao Yi's face darkened. This damn woman is too evil. Luckily, Mommy went to Italy. Otherwise, she and Godfather would definitely set her up again. This time, we'll let everyone know her true colors. That detestable old witch. Xiao Bao gritted his teeth and said, "Although Grandpa is in Italy and will definitely protect Mommy, we still can't let our guard down. Continue to eavesdrop. Oh right, we still have to report the situation here to Grandpa. Attention, Hengcha 866. Chapter 243. Because of Mrs. Su's interruption, Su Yunqian did not contact anyone from the outside world. The two little guys waited for an entire day and did not get any useful information. After Mrs. Su left, Su Yunqian originally planned to make another call, but the caregiver was in the ward the whole time, so she changed to sending a text message. The text message said in English, "Darling, that woman has gone to Italy. Help me find out where she is. I know it's not convenient for you to do it, but I'll find an idiot to do it." Soon, she received a reply. "No problem. I'll get back to you when I have news. Su Yunxian unhurriedly deleted the message in her phone and replaced it with another SIM card. In the evening, Xiaobao reported what he had eavesdropped to Tomac. At this time, it was noon in Rome. Xia Dong was accompanying Tomac for lunch. Robert came over with the phone and said respectfully, "Boss, young Master Bao is calling." "Give it to me." Tomac wiped his hands with a napkin and took the phone. "God grandfather, this is Xiaobao. Is my mother with you?" A young voice came from the receiver. Tomac laughed loudly. "Little rascal, are you calling for me or your mother?" "Of course I'm looking for you. But this matter has something to do with my mother, so it's good that she's here." "Hee hee. Tell me, what's going on?" The old man's curiosity was piqued. Xiaobao told Tomac everything he had eavesdropped and said, "God grandfather, my mother and father have been deceived by that bad woman Su Yunqian. You must protect my mother well. If she loses a single hair, I'll run to Rome and pull out all your hair." Tomac's deep blue eyes flashed with a trace of shrewdness. He smiled and said, "Little rascal, don't worry. God grandfather treasures his white hair very much." Okay, then it's settled. I'll let you know when there's more news." The grandfather and granddaughter chatted for a while. Finally, the phone was handed over to Xia Dong. Xiaobao said, "Mom, I've already told God grandfather. Su Yunqian, that bad woman, had it all planned out. She cooperated with Godfather and pretended to be kidnapped and raped in order to destroy your relationship with Dad and force you out of the house." Xia Dong had already guessed some things from their conversation just now. After learning the details, she was startled and said, "I didn't expect that I would still follow her wishes in the end." Xiaobao whined, "It's none of your business. It's all that bad woman's fault. Mom, although I also feel that Dad is in the wrong, you can punish him for a few days, but don't punish him for too long. Otherwise, when you come back, you will see Skeleton Dad." Xia Dong was startled. "What do you mean?" Xiaobao sighed. "What I mean is that Dad misses you so much that he falls ill every day. He puts all his effort into tracking down your whereabouts. He doesn't eat well, doesn't rest well, and has lost a lot of weight." Xia Dong gripped the phone tightly. "You guys persuade him." "We have, but Dad won't listen." Xiaobao sighed helplessly. The veins on the back of Xia Dong's hand bulged. She was silent for a long time before she said, "I can't see him for the time being." "Mom, are you still angry with Dad?" "Although Dad is indeed quite hateful." Xia Dong calmed down for a moment and chuckled. "I'm not angry anymore. Xiaobao, keep an eye on Daddy. Don't let him be seduced by another woman." Xiaobao patted his chest loudly. "Don't worry. Leave this to me." Just as Xiaobao hung up the phone, Xiao Yi suddenly ran into his room and said, "Su Yunqian just received a call from Godfather." Xiaobao was shocked. "What did they talk about?" "From what I heard, Godfather agreed to the bad woman's suggestion. The bad woman even sent him Mommy's current address." Xiaobao frowned. How did the bad woman know Mommy's address? Only a few people on God grandfather's side know Mommy's current address. I think it's strange too. You should quickly report this to God grandfather. Xiao Yi thought for a moment and said, "Now it's time to tell Daddy. Let Daddy find Mommy before Godfather and bring her back to China. Otherwise, if anything happens to Mommy, it'll be too late for us to regret it." Xiaobao sighed maturely. His eyebrows were knitted together and he spread his hands. "I have a feeling that I'm going to be in trouble. Do you think Dad will hang me up and beat me up if he finds out that I put a tracker in Mom's necklace only to tell him now?" Xiao Yi's mouth twitched. He said expressionlessly, "You're overthinking it." Xiaobao reached out and put his arm around his shoulder. "Come with me. If Dad really hangs me up and beats me up, you can at least hug his legs and cry and beg him to let me go." Xiao Yi's mouth twitched even more. He only said 2 words. "Get lost." The two little guys swayed their little buttocks as they walked to Bailey Han's room. Bailey Han was sitting behind his desk, his fingers typing furiously on the computer keyboard. They didn't know what he was busy with. When he heard their voices, he looked up and his cold lips curved slightly. "What's the matter?" Xiao Yi poked Xiao Bao's little arm with her finger. "Xiao Bao, don't you have something to tell Daddy?" Xiao Bao scratched his head and smiled foolishly. "Yeah, Daddy. I have something to report to you." Xiao Bao was smart. Once he spoke respectfully to an elder, he must be up to something or had done something wrong. Bailey Han smiled and said, "Come closer." "Oh." The two little meatballs shuffled over to him. He bent down and patted their heads. He said gently, "Tell me, what's the matter?" During this period of time, he was busy looking for a wife and didn't even have time to take care of his sons. He felt a little guilty. Xiao Bao coughed and grabbed his hair with his little hand. Daddy, if I say that I suddenly remembered that I put a small tracking device in Mom's necklace, will you beat me up?" Bailey Han's heart suddenly jumped. He grabbed Xiao Bao's tender shoulders tightly and said in a deep voice, "Xiao Bao, what did you say? Say it again." Xiao Bao looked bitter. "Daddy, I actually know where Mom is. Don't hit me." "That's great, that's great." Bailey Han suddenly picked Xiao Bao up and spun him a few times in the air. Then, he threw him high into the air. Xiao Bao was so scared that he screamed. He thought that his head was going to make intimate contact with the floor. His falling body suddenly fell into a pair of strong arms. Xiao Bao hugged Bailey Han's neck tightly and gasped for breath. It was so scary. His ecstatic father was too scary. "Xiao Bao, tell me quickly. Where is your mommy?" Bailey Han quickly asked his son after his ecstasy. Xiao Bao recited a long list of foreign street names. "Xiao Bao, you're awesome." Bailey Han rubbed his pink cheeks and put him down. Bailey Han was ecstatic as he made plans. He had already asked Ahu to prepare a visa and a plane parking permit. He could immediately leave for Rome tonight. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao watched him hurriedly pack his luggage and decided to disturb his mood. Xiao Bao poked Xiao Yi's arm with his finger, indicating that it was his turn. Xiao Yi walked behind Bailey Han with small steps and tugged at his clothes. "Daddy, there's one more thing I want to tell you." Bailey Han was in a good mood and a smile appeared on his face again. "What is it?" Xiao Yi took out a small recording pen from her pocket and handed it to him. "Daddy, this thing has something to do with you and Mommy." He and Xiao Bao had recorded evidence of their crimes on the day they eavesdropped. Bailey Han took the recording pen suspiciously. After he turned it on, he heard Su Yunqian and his godfather talking on the phone. Although he could only hear Su Yunqian's voice, he understood everything. He clenched his hands tightly. He could not believe that what he had heard was true. "How did you get this thing?" Xiao Yi said, "Xiao Bao and I placed a listening device in the pottery vase and asked you to give the vase to Su Yunqian. Today, we heard this conversation." The children would not lie and would not deliberately frame Su Yunqian. There was only one possibility, and that was that Su Yunqian had really done something unforgivable. Xiao Yi continued, "Daddy, Godfather has already agreed to Su Yunqian's conditions. He will soon rush to Italy and it will be detrimental to Mommy." Bailey Han's eyes were filled with anger and hatred. Damn it, their goal was actually to target Xia Xia. Xia Xia must be facing an unknown danger now. He had to get to her side as soon as possible. Bailey Han hurriedly packed his luggage and said in a low voice, "Xiao Yi, Xiao Bao, Daddy will go to Italy tonight. Gigai and you stay at home and listen to me. Before I come back, pretend that you don't know anything. I will deal with Su Yunqian and Godfather when I come back." Xiao Bao puffed up his cheeks and said unhappily, "But I want everyone to see Su Yunqian's true colors as soon as possible." Bailey Han said calmly, "Now is not the time. We don't know the power behind her. If we expose her rashly and force her into a corner, she may do something even more dangerous. So, don't touch her for the time being and wait for me to come back. Xiao Yi nodded heavily. Yes, that's right. Use her to draw out the power behind her. It's best to uproot them. You did well. I'll leave now. You can tell your great-grandmother tomorrow morning. Bailey Han was worried that the old madam would stop him, so he decided to act first and report later. Okay, Daddy, go quickly. The two children said in unison. Bailey Han patted their heads, picked up his luggage, and hurried downstairs. Soon, a Rolls-Royce rushed out of the manor in the night and sped all the way to the airport. In the car, Bailey Han had already contacted Ahu and brought the 5 best brothers in the gang to fly to Rome with him. Welfare, Songshu 566. Chapter 244. Rome. Late at night. Xia Dong leaned against the headboard with a tablet computer on her lap. Every night before she went to bed, she would check her emails. The emails in her inbox were all sent by Bailey Han. There were already 8 emails, one every day, but she never replied. In the first email, he asked where she was. He said he was very worried about her and missed her. In the second email, he apologized to her and said he would never visit Su Yunqian in the hospital again. He even asked where she was. In the third email, he said he was going crazy and couldn't bear to be without her. In the 7th email, he said he went to Mika Kito's place to ask about her whereabouts. He had a fight with Mika Kito. He said he missed her and loved her. When Xia Dong saw this email last night, she couldn't help but click on the reply button and write a short reply. However, after hesitating for a long time, she still clicked cancel. The latest email showed that it was sent at 9:00 p.m. Beijing time and 1:00 p.m. Rome time. Xia Dong opened the email. It said, "Honey, this is the 8th day since you left me. To me, it's like 8 years. Every night, I lie on the bed that belongs to the two of us and my mind is filled with you. Honey, I've been very obedient when you're not around. I've never looked at other women because you're the only one left in my heart and eyes. Honey, I miss you very much." Xia Dong had a smile on her face. Tears welled up in her eyes as she murmured, "Honey, I miss you very much too." She couldn't help but read all the emails again. Finally, she turned off the computer and lay on the bed to sleep. At 2:00 a.m. in the morning, Bailey Han's private jet landed at the airport in Rome. He rushed to Xia Dong's villa as fast as he could. Bailey Han's car drove to the entrance of the villa. Ahu, who was in the driver's seat, gestured to the electronic monitor. The gates slowly opened and the car smoothly drove in. On the way to Rome, Bailey Han had already contacted Tomac through the number given to him by Xiao Bao and obtained permission to enter the villa. As soon as they got out of the car, a maid came over and said in English, "Miss is resting. Please don't disturb her." Bailey Han said in a deep voice, "Ahu, all of you stay here and be on high alert." He followed the maid into the living room. When the maid led him to the guest room, he stopped. "Take me to the master bedroom." The maid smiled. "Sir, Miss is already resting. Please don't disturb her rest." Bailey Han narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, "Xia Dong is my wife. Call her madam from now on. Take me to the master bedroom." The maid said politely, "Sorry, I only take orders from Miss and Boss. Boss said that no one is allowed to disturb Mrs. rest." The boss that the maid was referring to was Xia Dong. Bailey Han's lips were tightly pursed. His whole body was emitting a cold aura. He said coldly, "I just want to see if she's okay. I promise I won't disturb her." It was clearly a negotiation, but when he said it, he was full of arrogance. The maid was not moved at all. She smiled. "I'm sorry, but I can't agree. Sir, please come with me." She extended her hand and made an inviting gesture. Bailey Han's hawk-like eyes quickly scanned the entire floor. He memorized the layout of the rooms in his heart. Bailey Han followed behind the maid, and the two of them stopped at the door of the guest room. Just as the maid was about to press the door handle, Bailey Han suddenly made a move and struck the back of her head with his palm. The maid fell to the ground with a thud. Bailey Han looked up at the surveillance camera on the ceiling. He said coldly in English, "Take her back to her room." He walked past the maid and found the master bedroom. He gently pushed the door open and walked in. After the door closed, the room was pitch black. He didn't want to turn on the lights, afraid that he would wake Xia Dong up. He turned on his phone. Under the dim light, he walked to her bedside. Her whole body was curled up in the soft quilt. She was lying on her side and her face was facing him. The person that he missed so much appeared in front of him at this moment. He almost stopped breathing. His legs felt heavy as if they were filled with lead. He moved his legs with difficulty to get closer to her. He turned the light on the phone to the floor. With the dim light, he carefully looked at her face. Delicate eyebrows, a high nose bridge, rosy lips, and a peaceful sleeping face. Seeing that she was safe, his high tension finally relaxed a little. He reached out and gently stroked her cheek. Finally, he leaned over and kissed her gently on the lips. His arms gently hugged her in his embrace. In the minute that Xia Dong woke up, her mind was not very clear. She vaguely felt that something was wrong. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and took a closer look. Her whole body froze. A handsome face suddenly appeared in front of her eyes. It was the person that she had been thinking about day and night. She was actually using his arm as a pillow and lying in his chest. She thought that she was dreaming. She pinched her arm hard. Ouch, it hurt. She wasn't dreaming. He was really sleeping beside her. Xia Dong's trembling fingers landed on Bailey Han's face. She gently stroked his cheek. He was really as Xiao Bao had said. He had lost a lot of weight. There was stubble on his chin and there were dark circles under his eyes. He must have not slept well in a long time. She rested her head on his chest and hugged his waist tightly. As soon as she moved, he suddenly opened his eyes and stared at her face. Xia Dong was stunned by his sharp gaze. He suddenly said in a low voice, "Wifey, I'm not dreaming, right? Are you really by my side?" Xia Dong's heart ached. She smiled. "Hubby, you're not dreaming. I'm really by your side." "That's great." He hugged her tightly and rubbed his chin on her hair. He said in a low voice, "Wifey, don't leave me again." She hugged him tightly and did not say a word. Bailey Han said in a low voice, "Wifey, tell me that you won't leave me again." Xia Dong said softly, "Okay, I won't leave you again." He said fiercely, "If you leave me again, I won't let you go even if I have to chase you to the ends of the earth." She chuckled. He ruffled her hair in annoyance. During breakfast, they were served by the same maid from last night. She looked at Bailey Han strangely. To be exact, she looked at him with hatred. Xia Dong poked Bailey Han's arm and said in Chinese, "Marlene looked at you strangely as if you owed her money. When did you offend her?" Bailey Han focused on what he was doing. He cut the sausages on the plate into very small pieces and said casually, "She didn't allow me to enter the master bedroom last night, so I knocked her out." Xia Dong's mouth twitched. Then she said to Marlene in Italian, "Marlene, I apologize for my husband's behavior last night." Marlene smiled embarrassedly. "Miss, you're too polite." Bailey Han pushed the cut sausages in front of Xia Dong. He looked up and stared at Marlene with sharp eyes. He said in Italian, "Mrs. Marlene, please call her Mrs. Marlene." Marlene was obviously shocked. She had been communicating with Bailey Han in English last night. She didn't expect him to know Italian. Xia Dong didn't expect it either, but she quickly reacted and smiled. "Marlene, listen to Mr. Bailey's instructions. Call me Mrs. Marlene in the future." "Yes." Marlene bowed respectfully to them. "Hubby, other than Italian, what other languages do you know?" Xia Dong asked with a smile as she speared a piece of sausage into her mouth. Bailey Han said lightly, I think I know French, Japanese, and German. Xia Dong raised her eyebrows. What do you mean by, I think I know? He said calmly, I haven't used French and German in a long time, so I'm not particularly proficient. Hubby, you're the best. Xia Dong exclaimed. No wonder the children were geniuses. It was because their fathers had excellent genes. Bailey Han's lips curved. He leaned his head in front of her and pointed at his cheek. Reward me. Xia Dong pushed him away in annoyance. Mind your image. They were not the only two people living in this house, whether in the open or in the dark. Bailey Han stroked her hair good-naturedly. They know what to look at and what not to look at. She snorted. I'm not as thick-skinned as you. After breakfast, Bailey Han helped her take a walk in the garden. Italy had a Mediterranean climate. The winter was mild and humid, which was very suitable for nourishing the fetus. Xia Dong was tired from walking. Bailey Han helped her to sit under a shady tree. He took a thin blanket and covered her stomach with it. With one arm around her waist, he leaned her head on his shoulder and said softly, Wifey, there's something I have to tell you. Xia Dong chuckled. Is it about Su Yunqian? He looked down at her. Did the two rascals tell you? She said softly, Bailey Han held her hand tightly. His eyes were full of guilt. Wifey, I was too stupid. I was deceived by her and hurt you because of it. I'm sorry. Xia Dong covered his mouth. Don't talk about it. Let bygones be bygones. He hugged her tightly and said softly, Come home with me. She shook her head. I can't go back. His hand tightened. Are you still angry with me? No, Xiao Guai has already been admitted to the hospital arranged by Godfather. The facilities are perfect and the medical technology is good. I want her to stay in Rome for treatment. Bailey Han was silent for a few seconds and said in a deep voice, I'll stay with you. Xia Dong quickly said, It's okay. The company and family need you. Stay with us for 2 more days and then go back. Bailey Han was determined. I've already decided. I'm going to stay with you and Gigai. As for the company and family, you don't have to worry. I have my own arrangements. Xia Dong straightened up and looked into his eyes. She said seriously, Hubby, listen to me. Grandma is old and Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao need someone to take care of them. You should go back first. Xiao Guai and I have Godfather to take care of us. You can come and visit us anytime you want. Add, Songshu 566. Chapter 245. Bailey Han said, Honey, you don't have to persuade me anymore. I won't change my mind. If you're well rested, we'll go to the hospital to visit Xiao Guai. The hospital was only 1 street away from Xia Dong's villa. Tomac had sent many of his men to hide around the hospital to protect Xiao Guai. Bailey Han and the others soon arrived at the door of the ward. Xiao Guai was sitting on the sofa, and the caregiver was playing games with her. Both of them were laughing happily. The door opened, and 2 familiar figures walked in. Xiao Guai froze for a moment, then suddenly jumped off the sofa and ran quickly to the door. Daddy, Daddy, Bailey Han opened his arms and hugged his daughter tightly. Gigai, Daddy is here. Xiao Guai burst into tears. Daddy, why are you only here now? I missed you so much. Gigai, don't cry. Daddy will never leave you again. Bailey Han kissed her cheek gently. Xiao Guai cried for a long time, and her pale little face was full of tears. Bailey Han's heart ached. He carried her to the sofa and gently wiped the tears on her face with a tissue. He softly coaxed, Gigai, don't cry. If you cry again, your mommy will cry too. Xiao Guai wiped her tears with the back of her hand and looked up at Xia Dong. Seeing that her eyes were red, she quickly said, I won't cry. Mommy, don't cry too. Xia Dong approached the father and daughter, opened her arms, and hugged them tightly. Gigai, Daddy won't go back. He'll stay here with you and Mommy, okay? Bailey Han's heart ached when he saw his daughter's current appearance. Because of the chemotherapy, almost all of her hair had fallen out. She wore a small pink hat, which made her cheeks look even paler and smaller. But what about my brothers? There's also great-grandmother and grandmother. Xiao Guai raised his head. His black and bright eyes looked even more lustrous because of the tears. Daddy will go home to visit them every 2 weeks. During the winter vacation, Daddy will bring my brothers over, okay? Yes, yes. Xiao Guai nodded heavily. Bailey Han looked up at Xia Dong and smiled. Honey, our daughter has agreed to let me stay. Do you have the heart to chase me back home? Xia Dong bit her lip and didn't say anything. Xiao Guai tugged at Xia Dong's clothes with her little hand, swaying gently and acting coquettishly. Mommy, let Daddy stay. I'll listen to Gigai and take the medicine and injections. I won't cry or throw a tantrum in the future. Mommy, let Daddy stay. Her soft voice crashed into Xia Dong's heart, making her unable to harden her heart. However, her illness would be exposed one day, and she didn't dare to imagine the situation she would face when that time came. Bailey Han put an arm around her shoulders and said in a low voice, Honey, no matter what difficulties there are in the future, let us face them together. Don't leave me alone again. Xia Dong lowered her head, not daring to look into his eyes. His voice was so low that she almost couldn't hear what he was saying. Honey, let me tell you a secret. Actually, when you left, I was very afraid. He was afraid that the door to her heart that she had opened with great difficulty for him would close again. He was afraid that she would never want him again. He was afraid that he would never be able to find her again. Xia Dong struggled for a long time, but in the end, she still didn't respond to him. Bailey Han stared at her with a complicated expression. He thought that he had broken her heart. Although she said that she was fine, she still wasn't willing to forgive him in her heart. The family of 3 had lunched together and played with Xiao Guai for a while. The little girl was tired and fell asleep in Bailey Han's arms. He placed her on the bed and instructed the nurse to take good care of her. Bailey Han put an arm around Xia Dong's waist and walked out of the ward. He smiled and said, Honey, we're going to visit Godfather now. Xia Dong looked at him suspiciously. You know where Godfather lives? He laughed. I already talked to Godfather on the phone on the way to Rome. Otherwise, do you think I can enter your villa and this hospital without his permission? She snorted. Of course I know that Godfather agreed. I just didn't expect that Godfather would help you. She had already told Godfather to hide it from Bailey Han, but Godfather had lied to her. How infuriating. Bailey Han said proudly, Well, I'm your husband after all. Xia Dong said coldly, Maybe you won't be in 2 days' time. He gritted his teeth. Why? Are you going to abandon your husband and child? She raised her eyebrows. That will depend on your performance. He stroked her hair in a good-natured manner. Okay, I'll definitely perform well. After leaving the inpatient building, Bailey Han brought Xia Dong to a new car. After helping her into the car, Ahu started the car and drove out of the garage. This isn't the car we came in. Why do we have to change cars? Xia Dong had a nagging feeling that something was amiss. Bailey Han had come over from the country with a total of 6 people. Every one of them seemed to have extraordinary skills. If it was just to bring them home, there was no need to be so nervous. Bailey Han smiled. The car just now was uncomfortable. We have to change to a more comfortable one. Xia Dong frowned slightly and said, Godfather has recently increased the security of the villa. You also look like you're facing a great enemy. Is Godfather and Su Yunqian plotting something? He stroked her hair. Don't think too much. Godfather and I are just thinking about your safety. She looked at him suspiciously. Is that really all? Of course. The purpose of changing cars was to cover it up. If he told her, she would only be worried, so he chose to lie. The car slowly drove into the castle. Tomac watched through the surveillance camera as Bailey Han helped Xia Dong through the spacious hall. He took good care of her along the way. There was a subtle look of satisfaction in his blue eyes. "You're Bailey Han." Tomac's deep eyes were fixed on the man standing in front of him. He was handsome, tall, and had the demeanor of a king. He was indeed a dragon among men. Bailey Han smiled and said in a low voice, "Yes, Godfather." "I'm not your godfather." Tomac leaned against the sofa lazily and looked at him calmly with a pair of eagle eyes. His voice was calm, but there was a sense of oppression. Bailey Han said indifferently, "You're Xia's godfather, which means you're my godfather." Tomac tapped his fingers on the back of the sofa and stared coldly at Bailey Han. Bailey Han didn't seem to feel the suffocating pressure. His expression was calm and there was even a faint smile on his lips. Tomac said in a low voice, "I'll give you a chance to prove to me that you have the ability to protect Xia. Otherwise, even if you're her husband, I won't hand her over to you." "Okay," Bailey Han answered without hesitation. "I'll leave Godfather's matter to you. My men will also help you in secret. You have to ensure the safety of Xia and Xiao Guai." "No problem." Bailey Han's deep eyes were filled with determination. Tomac and Bailey Han talked in the study for more than half an hour. Xia Dong waited until Bailey Han came out and asked nervously, "How was it? Did Godfather make things difficult for you?" Bailey Han's lips curved. Before he could answer, a deep and old voice came from behind him. "Do I look like that kind of person?" "Godfather." Xia Dong smiled embarrassedly. She left Bailey Han and walked up to Tomac. She hugged his arm and smiled ingratiatingly. "I was just worried that he would make you angry." Don't think I don't know what you're thinking." Tomac deliberately put on a stern face. Xia Dong acted coquettishly. "Godfather, I was wrong. Is that okay?" "Forget it. There's an old saying in China, a married daughter is like spilled water. You're on his side now. If he can also be on your side, I'll be satisfied if you two can support each other." Tomac gave Bailey Han a meaningful look. Bailey Han gazed at Xia Dong. He smiled and said seriously, "Godfather, I'll remember what you said." "Very good." Tomac nodded with satisfaction. In the blink of an eye, it was night time. On the surface, everything looked peaceful. In a building more than 200 meters away from the villa, a pair of malicious eyes were monitoring the villa through binoculars. He was standing by the window of the living room. Not far behind him sat a middle-aged man with an expressionless face. "Nightingale, what's the situation with the surveillance?" the middle-aged man asked. The man named Nightingale was the one monitoring the villa. He stared at the binoculars and replied, "At around 10 a.m., a Maybach drove out of the villa and stopped in the parking lot of the Central Hospital. It wasn't until 3 p.m. that the Maybach returned to the villa. Until now, the villa has been very quiet. No one has come in or out." "What did Firefox say?" the middle-aged man asked again. "She observed the villa for a day. It said that there are many bodyguards lying in ambush. There are more than 10 people in the surrounding streets. There are at least 10 people in the villa." Nightingale suddenly shouted. "Wait a minute, a car is driving into the villa." The middle-aged man walked forward and saw a Rolls-Royce driving into the villa through the binoculars. Soon, 3 people came out. One of them was the pregnant Xia Dong. She walked on the left side. A man blocked her right side. Another man blocked her back. The position of the 2 men was the best place to shoot. The 3 of them were very fast. It only took them 10 seconds to enter the villa. If someone was hiding in the dark and shooting, he would lose accuracy because the target was too fast. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes. If he was not mistaken, the man on the right side of Xia Dong was Bailey Han. He did not expect that he would come to Rome. Nightingale frowned and said, "Wild Wolf, the other party is very vigilant. It seems difficult for us to lure Xia Dong out of the villa." The middle-aged man was called Wild Wolf. He was also the most trusted killer of his godfather. He was ranked number 1 in City A. This time, he went abroad for a mission with only 2 partners, Nightingale and Firefox. They were very good at collecting information. They even had the ability to steal the files of the U.S. intelligence agency. Welfare, Songshu 566. Chapter 246. Wolf said coldly, "Since we can't do it recklessly, we can only use our wits. Keep an eye on the villa. I have something to do, so I'll leave first." Nightingale said, "Got it." It was late at night, and there were few pedestrians and cars on the road. Wolf drove for more than an hour and entered an old castle in the suburbs. This was the territory of the Juris family. The Juris family was the second most powerful family in the Italian mafia, second only to the Anya family founded by Tomac. The two families seemed to be on good terms on the surface, but in fact, they were full of competition and killing intent. The godfather was friends with the boss of the Juris family, Barit. This time, the godfather wanted to cooperate with Barit to deal with Tomac. After Wild Wolf got out of the car, a man in a black suit led him to Barit's study room. They talked for more than an hour. Barit personally sent Wild Wolf out of the study room and hugged him goodbye with a smile on his face. China, early morning. Bei Tangshan's suit was straight, his head was held high and his chest was puffed out. He walked towards the boarding gate with Lu Xing and Zhu Kei following behind him. Suddenly, his cell phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. A low voice was heard, "I'm Godfather." Mika Kito didn't stop walking. He said coldly, "What do you want?" The Godfather laughed. "Mika Kito, I just want to tell you that I'll take back the blood debt you owe me." Mika Kito said indifferently, "And then?" The Godfather paused and said, "Then, bang, I'll send you to see God. It's too troublesome to see God. I'll leave it to you." Mika Kito said and hung up the phone. They were on a flight to Rome. In 12 hours, they would stop Rome. Bei Tangshan was sitting by the window. When the plane took off, he turned his head to look at the blue sky and white clouds outside. His brows were slightly knitted. His godfather had clearly called to threaten him. What was he planning to do now? At that time, Mika Kito didn't know that he would get the answer to his question in a few hours. But it would be a bloody answer. Rome, around 9 a.m. After Bei Han and Xia Dong finished their breakfast, they rested in the garden. After sitting for a while, they decided to go to the hospital to visit Xiao Guai. Xia Dong planned to change her clothes. Just as Bei Han helped her into the living room, the button on the iron door suddenly rang. Andrew glanced at the monitor and saw an employee of the express delivery company standing at the door with a small box in his hand. He spoke in Italian, "Hello, I'm an employee of the express delivery company." "This is your express delivery?" Andrew picked up the microphone and asked, "Who are the recipient and sender?" The courier replied, "The recipient is Miss Xia Dong, and the sender is Miss Yi Siki from China." "Hold on." Andrew hung up the phone and walked out of the surveillance room. He came to Xia Dong's room and knocked on the door. "Andrew, what's the matter?" Xia Dong opened the door. "Miss, there's an express delivery for you outside. It's from China, and the sender is Miss Yi Siki. I want to confirm if you know the sender." "Yes, she's my friend." Xia Dong thought for a while and said, "Andrew, wait a minute. Let me ask Siki first." She immediately called Yi Siki and asked if she had sent anything to her. Siki's voice was a little hoarse as she said, "Yes, I did send you something." Xia Dong frowned. "Yi Zi, what's wrong with your voice? It doesn't sound right." Yi Siki coughed a few times. "I've caught a cold recently, so my throat is a little uncomfortable." "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." I'm almost recovered, but my voice is still a little hoarse. That's good. Take care of yourself. By the way, what did you send me? Yi Siki chuckled. Didn't I already send it? You'll know when you open it. Okay, get some rest. Call me if you need anything. Okay, I got it. You take care of yourself too. After Xia Dong ended the call, she said to Andrew, Siki sent it to me. Andrew, please get someone to sign for it. Okay, Mississippi. Andrew picked up the walkie-talkie and asked his companion, Bernie, to sign for the express delivery at the door. Bernie was a man who looked as strong as a bear. Although he was burly and looked clumsy, he was actually very agile. He put a pistol on his back and walked out of the security room at the gate with mountain-like steps. He pressed a button and the big iron door slowly opened. The courier handed a box and a pen to Bernie. Hello, please sign for it. Bernie glanced at the courier and quickly signed his name on the express delivery receipt. Then he tore off the receipt and handed it to the courier, saying thank you expressionlessly. You're welcome. The courier smiled and turned to walk to the car parked at the side of the road. He opened the door and sat in the passenger seat. The man sitting in the driver's seat glanced at the courier and stepped on the accelerator. The courier took off the hat on his head and threw it on the back seat. He took out a small and exquisite phone from his pocket with a sly smile on his face. Bernie carried the box to the door of the living room. Xia Dong thanked him and was about to open the box herself when Bailey Han suddenly grabbed her wrist and pulled her away from the box. He said, Don't do it, Bernie. Open the box. Be careful. Bernie nodded. He picked up a small knife and gently cut open the box. When he opened it gently, the thing inside suddenly came into everyone's sight. Inside the box was a furry and cute teddy bear. However, everyone's expression changed when they saw it. This was because there were 2 glass tubes filled with liquid tied to the teddy bear's body. There were also some messy wires connected together. Next to the glass tubes was a small and exquisite phone. A time bomb. Andrew's face turned pale. Xia Dong's back was covered in cold sweat. Her hands and feet were cold. She couldn't help but grab Bailey Han's arm tightly. Bailey Han hugged her and said calmly, Andrew, inform everyone to prepare to evacuate. Ahu, take Madam to the car first. Abeo, come and take a look at this bomb. Abeo was the bomb disposal expert of the Dragon Gang. He carefully looked at the bomb and said, Young master, this bomb is very complicated. It will take at least half an hour to dismantle it. The other party can detonate the bomb at any time through the phone. It's very dangerous. Let's leave first. Abeo, inform the people at the hospital to secretly transfer Xiao Guai out. Bailey Han's handsome face was cold. His hawk-like eyes flashed with a terrifying light, and his body exuded a terrifying aura. His godfather was so cunning that he carefully set up a trap. It would be strange if Bailey Han wasn't angry. Everyone got into the car and drove out of the villa one after another. The cardboard box containing the bomb was placed on the table in the living room. Just as the last car drove out of the villa, there was a loud bang and a huge explosion. The entire villa collapsed. The huge airflow rushed to the back of the car and shook it onto the road, almost hitting the railing. Abeo was quick to react. He quickly turned the steering wheel and swerved the car to the other side. Xia Dong and Bai Li Han were sitting in the car at the front. When she heard the explosion, she turned around and saw flames soaring into the sky. Thick smoke billowed, and many things were blown away. They fell on the road and burned with a sizzling sound. Xia Dong's fingers were cold. Bai Li Han held her hand tightly. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Her voice trembled. Hubby, will Xiao Guai be in danger? I want to see her. Bailey Han put his arm around her shoulder and said in a low voice, Honey, we can't go now. The enemy is mainly targeting us. If we go, it will lead the danger to Xiao Guai. Don't worry. I've already asked people to secretly transfer Xiao Guai out of the hospital. Xia Dong calmed down and said, "How could this be? It was clearly sent by Siki. How could there be a bomb?" Bailey Han hugged her tightly and didn't say anything. In his heart, he guessed that there were only two possibilities. One was that the package sent by Yi Siki had been replaced by someone else. The other was that Xia's call to Yi Siki had been intercepted, and that Yi Siki was also someone else in disguise. In a building not far away, Nightingale looked at the billowing smoke in the villa and the 5 expensive luxury cars on the road. She couldn't help laughing. "Wild Wolf, your plan is really brilliant. You used Yi Siki's name to send a package with a bomb. Then you asked Firefox to intercept Xia Dong's call and pretend to be Yi Siki to confirm. If it were me, I would definitely be fooled. Wild Wolf, you're really something." Wild Wolf held a telescope in his hand and watched the scene outside. He said lightly, "We're only halfway there. Don't be happy too early." Nightingale shrugged disapprovingly and said, "Wild Wolf, I'm curious. Why didn't you just kill them all?" Wild Wolf said coldly, "If we killed them directly, how could we lure Mikakito out? Don't forget that Godfather's main target is Mikakito." "I see." Nightingale was full of admiration for Wild Wolf. She said, "The Eulis family should have taken action by now." Wild Wolf didn't answer. His black eyes revealed a vicious look. The 5 luxury cars drove to the suburbs at the fastest speed. The safest place now was Tomac's castle. They had to hurry there. Bailey Han frowned. A question suddenly popped into his mind. Why didn't the other party detonate the bomb immediately after sending the box into the villa? Why did they detonate the bomb after they left the villa? His temples suddenly twitched. He ordered in a deep voice, "Ahu, tell everyone to adjust the order of the cars. Andrew, ask the people in the castle to support us." 2 cars overtook Bailey Han's Rolls-Royce from the side lane. There were 2 other cars behind it. There were a total of 4 cars, protecting the Rolls-Royce in the middle. Beauty novel, Shinwoo 799. Chapter 247. Just a minute after the change in the order, a large truck suddenly came from the front and sped towards them at an extremely fast speed. Behind it, there was also a large truck that sped over and surrounded their 5 cars in the middle. Bang! Bang! 2 loud noises were heard. The 2 cars at the front and back were sent flying. The 2 large trucks at the front and back were still moving forward and were about to hit the 3 cars in the middle. Ahu, who was in charge of driving, gritted his teeth and suddenly dashed to the side of the road. He brushed past the large truck in front of him in a very dangerous position. Ka. The door of the Rolls-Royce was knocked off. The 2 trucks came to an abrupt stop. After a series of collisions, the scene was extremely messy. The drivers in the 1st and 4th cars were killed on the spot. The others crawled out of the cars with injured legs and arms. Blood flowed all over the ground. Bao held a pistol in his hand and shouted in Italian, "Everyone, stay alert. Cover the young master and madam." The members of the Dark Knight family had undergone strict training. Even if they were injured, they still had great endurance and fighting strength. They all held weapons in their hands and stared at the 2 trucks cautiously. A group of foreign men in black suits suddenly jumped out of the trucks. They held machine guns in their hands and fired rapidly at the group of injured people. The truck at the front suddenly turned around and chased after the Rolls-Royce. Bao's eyes were bloodshot. He gritted his teeth and fired at the tires of the truck. Although the bullets hit the tires, the gas in the tires did not dissipate so quickly. The truck continued to move forward and chased after Bailey Han and the others. A fierce gunfight began. Gunshots and screams intertwined on the empty road. Blood flowed slowly and gathered into small streams. The broken limbs were a ghastly sight. Ahu saw the tragic scene from the rearview mirror. His eyes were red and he wanted to jump out of the car to avenge Bao and the others. However, for the sake of the young master and madam in the car, he had to remain calm. As the truck got closer, he stepped on the accelerator and shouted, "Young master, madam, hold on tight." Andrew, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, suffered the most. The door next to him was knocked off and he could only hold on tightly to the seat to prevent himself from being thrown out. Bang! Bang! The gunshots were getting closer and closer, and the bullets flew toward the glass behind them. The thick bulletproof glass was hit, and dense cracks appeared. Bailey Han shielded Xia Dong's head against his chest. At the same time, he pulled out a pistol from his waist and stared vigilantly at the back of the car. Bang! A gunshot rang out. The rear right tire of the Rolls-Royce suddenly shook. Ahu shouted, "Oh no, the tire has been hit." Andrew said in Italian, "The backup will be here soon. Hold on for another 10 minutes. Ahu frowned and stepped on the accelerator with gritted teeth. Bang! Another gunshot rang out. The rear left tire also shook, and the speed became slower and slower. In the end, it completely stopped 200 meters away. As for the truck, it stopped about 300 meters away. More than a dozen men in black suits jumped out from the back of the truck and quickly ran towards them. As they ran, one of them shouted in Italian, "Leave that woman alive. Kill everyone else." There were only 4 people in the Rolls-Royce: Ahu, Andrew, Bailey Han, and Xia Dong. Andrew was the first to jump out of the car. He hid beside the car and fired at the group of people. Bailey Han carried Xia Dong horizontally and escaped into the woods with Ahu's cover. A few of the dozen people fell, and the remaining 10 or so ran towards them. Ahu and Andrew did not have the upper hand either. Both of them were injured. 300 meters, 200 meters. The group of people was getting closer and closer. Bailey Han and the other 3 hid in the woods. When the group of people caught up to them, the 2 parties engaged in a life-and-death battle that resembled a game of hide-and-seek. Intense gunshots rang out from outside the woods. They could hear a large group of people marching towards them. Andrew's face lit up. He lowered his voice and said, "Sir, madam, our people are here." As Andrew was too happy, he accidentally exposed his hiding place. An assassin pointed his gun at him. Xia Dong shouted anxiously, "Andrew, be careful." Bang! The assassin suddenly fell to the ground. Xia Dong heaved a sigh of relief. Beside her, Bailey Han was pointing his gun at the assassin. Andrew turned around and stared at the assassin lying on the ground with his mouth agape. There was a hole in his chest and blood was gushing out of it. "Thank you." Andrew was ashamed and grateful. "Don't say anything else. Let's get out of here quickly." Bailey Han bent down again, intending to carry Xia Dong. At this moment, he suddenly saw a hand holding a gun sticking out from behind a big tree 50 meters away. The next moment, that hand pulled the trigger. He quickly used his body to protect Xia Dong and hid behind the big tree. However, he was still one step too late. Bang! The bullet grazed the tree trunk and shot into his head. At the moment when his body fell down, he let go of Xia Dong. The last thought in his mind was that he couldn't drag Xia Dong down because of his heavy body. The fierce gunshots were getting closer and closer. The people of the Dark Knight family had broken into the woods and quickly killed the remaining assassins. Xia Dong couldn't hear or see anything. She could only see Bailey Han, whose head was covered with blood. She grasped his hand tightly and her voice became hoarse because of fear. "Honey, don't be afraid. We'll go to the hospital soon. It's okay. It'll be okay." Blood flowed down from Bailey Han's eyes and stained the ground under him. The damp air was filled with the strong smell of blood. The light in his eyes dimmed. In his daze, Xia Dong's pale face was streaked with tears. Her mouth opened and closed, and his ears buzzed like thunder. He couldn't hear what she was saying. He tried to reach out his hand to wipe away the tears on her face, but he couldn't lift his finger no matter how hard he tried. In the end, the light in his eyes disappeared completely, and his eyes turned gray. "Honey." A shrill scream pierced through the silent sky. Quick, send young master to the hospital. A group of people rushed over. Some reached out to check his pulse, while others checked his breath. Ahu was covered in blood. He gritted his teeth and helped Xia Dong up. Young mistress, calm down. Young master is still breathing. Xia Dong's panicked heart calmed down a little. She watched as they lifted Bailey Han up steadily. She followed behind them unsteadily. Someone came forward to support her and sent her to the ambulance. The nurse in the ambulance put a coat on her. The ambulance drove to the hospital at the fastest speed. Xia Dong sat beside Bailey Han and held his right hand tightly. Tears were rolling in her eyes. She choked and said, "Honey, you have to hold on. Even if it's for me and the children, you have to hold on." The ambulance passed by the area where the accident happened. The wreckage of the car was scattered everywhere. Many corpses were lying everywhere. Some cars were on fire, and thick smoke was billowing out. Some people were putting out the fire, some were moving the corpses, and some were giving first aid to the injured. It was like purgatory on earth. At this moment, Mika Keto had just gotten off the plane. He suddenly received a call from Tomac. Ah Shen, Bailey Han and Xia Xia are in trouble. Mika Keto's heart froze as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over it. He dragged the driver out of the driver's seat. Ignoring Lu Xing and Suzaku, he stepped on the accelerator and the car sped away like an arrow. The doctors and nurses pushed the stretcher quickly down the hospital corridor. Xia Dong held Bailey Han's hand and ran all the way to the door of the emergency room. "Madam, please let go. We're going into the operating room," the nurse, "Miss," said. "Honey, you have to hold on. As long as you wake up, I won't care about anything. Please, you have to hold on." Xia Dong let go of Bailey Han's hand with tears streaming down her face. The lights in the operating room came on. Xia Dong felt as if all the strength in her body had been sucked out in an instant. She held onto the bench beside her and supported herself with difficulty. She moved her feet and sat on it. Her face was pale, her body was trembling uncontrollably, and her eyes were blank. Even though there were people comforting her, she couldn't hear a single word. Her mind was filled with the image of Bailey Han covered in blood. There was the sound of hurried and messy footsteps. Mika Keto and the others ran over from the end of the corridor. He was wearing a white shirt with the buttons torn open. His suit jacket was draped over his arm, and his chest was heaving violently. He ran over to Xia Dong and saw that she was wearing a man's jacket. The dress inside was stained red with blood. It was a ghastly sight. He held her shoulders and asked anxiously, "Xia Xia, are you all right?" The familiar voice entered her eardrums. Xia Dong turned her head stiffly and stared blankly at the man who was panting. She blinked her eyes, and tears rolled down her cheeks. She burst into tears and cried, "Brother Shen, don't be afraid. I'm here." Mika Keto hugged her tightly and said in a low voice, "Tell me, are you hurt?" "No, but Ahan, he was shot in the head." "Brother Shen, what should I do? I'm so scared." She grabbed Mika Keto's arm tightly as if she was grabbing onto her last life-saving straw. "Don't be afraid. The doctors will save him. He'll be fine." Mika Keto stroked her hair to comfort her. He looked up at the emergency room. His scarlet eyes were bottomless, and there was a hint of bone-chilling coldness in them. "Godfather, damn Godfather. He must have done something." Mika Keto pursed his lips tightly. He would not let his godfather off. An hour later, the light in the operating room was still on. Xia Dong's nerves were tense, and she would tremble at the slightest movement. Mika Keto's heart ached for her. He held her in his arms and gently patted her back. Tomac also came over and comforted her. He had ordered a thorough investigation into the identities of the assassins, and there should be results soon. Come and see, Hungcha 866. Chapter 248. Xia Dong had calmed down a lot. She bit her lip and said, "Godfather, Brother Shen, when we were attacked, I heard the killers say something. They said, kill everyone except that woman." Mika Kito's eyes narrowed, and Tomac's face darkened. This time, the Anya family had suffered heavy losses. A total of 12 members had died, and 3 of them were seriously injured. Of the 6 elites from the dragon gang that Bailey Han had brought with him, 3 of them were protecting Xiao Guai in the hospital, while the other 3 were seriously injured. Ahu's chest was pierced by a bullet, Abeo's ribs were broken, and Ing had lost his left arm. The killers were ruthless, and it was their style to eliminate the source of trouble. Since they had proposed to keep Xia Dong alive, they must have planned to use her to blackmail Tomac or Mika Kito. Tomac pulled Mika Kito aside and briefly told her what Xiaobao had heard. He said, "Godfather is in cahoots with the mafia. I suspect that these killers are from the mafia, and their purpose is to eliminate you and me." Mika Kito frowned and said in a low voice, "They used a time bomb to force Bailey Han and the others out of the villa, and then created a car accident to intercept them. Their main purpose should be to kidnap Xia Xia. Now that the operation has failed, they may have other plans." Tomac's blue eyes shot out a murderous look, and his face was fierce. "We have to find out their background before they make a move, and then kill them all in one fell swoop." Mika Kito nodded. "Godfather, I will take care of Xia Xia. I'll leave Xiao Guai to you." After Xia Dong's villa was attacked, Bailey Han urgently transferred Xiao Guai from the hospital to another villa of Tomac's. Tomac patted him on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry, Xiao Guai is with me. I'll also send more people to Xia Xia's side. We can't let them take advantage of us again." 3 hours had passed, but the lights in the operating theater were still on. The surgery was still ongoing. Xia Dong had been waiting outside the operating room without eating or drinking for more than 3 hours. Even if she could bear it, the baby in her belly couldn't. Mika Kito saw this and was anxious. He ordered someone to buy seafood porridge and brought it over. He stirred the porridge himself and waited for it to cool down before he scooped a spoonful and fed it to her. "Brother Shen, I'm not hungry." Xia Dong was worried about Bailey Han's injury and was not in the mood to eat. Mika Kito stubbornly placed the spoon next to her lips and said in a deep voice, "Xia Xia, even if you don't care about yourself, you should think about the baby. You're no longer alone. Stop being so willful." As if responding to Mika Kito's words, Xia Dong's stomach suddenly moved. The baby had kicked her lightly. The baby could feel her worry and sadness, so he was worried and sad too, right? Xia Dong placed her right hand on her stomach and gently stroked it. She couldn't help opening her mouth and swallowing the porridge in the spoon. Mika Kito's lips twitched and he scooped another spoonful of porridge. Xia Dong took the spoon. "Brother Shen, I'll do it myself." Mika Kito did not insist and placed the bowl and spoon in her hands. Xia Dong said as she ate the porridge, "Brother Shen, how long do you plan to stay in Rome?" Mika Kito took out a tissue and wiped the corners of her mouth. "I'll leave after I'm done with this." She looked up at him. "Did you come here for me?" He ruffled her hair. "Silly girl." Xia Dong was touched. She bit the spoon and smiled, but her tears fell. "Don't cry. The baby knows that mommy is crying, so he'll cry too. When he's born, he'll be a crybaby." Mika Kito's lips curved. He put an arm around her shoulders and patted her gently. Xia Dong said in a nasal voice, "Okay, I won't cry. I don't want the baby to become a crybaby." Mika Kito wiped her tears and said in a low voice, "Eat first. It's going to get cold later." "Okay." Xia Dong finished the porridge spoonful by spoonful and drank half a bowl of chicken soup. With food in her stomach, her body warmed up. "Brother Shen, is Xiao Guai safe now?" "She's safe. Don't worry. Godfather will take care of her." Xia Dong felt a little relieved. She looked up at his handsome face. "Brother Shen, You rushed to the hospital right after you got off the plane. You must be tired. Go back and rest. I'm fine now. Mika Kito smiled. I slept from the moment I got on the plane until I got off. I'm very energetic now. I don't need to rest. He ruffled her hair. Are you tired? Do you need to rest? She shook her head. I'm fine. I need to wait for the operation to be over. He was silent for a moment and said, should we inform Bailey Han's family? Xia Dong clenched her fists nervously. After a while, she said, let's wait for the operation to be over. The operation went on for 7 hours. When the doctor came out of the operating room, Xia Dong's entire body was stiff. She stood up from the sofa with Mika Kito's help. She was so nervous that her voice trembled. Doctor, how was the operation? How's my husband? The doctor took off his mask. He looked a little tired and said slowly, the bullet in the patient's brain has been removed. The operation is considered a success. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. Xia Dong's eyes were filled with tears. The doctor smiled and said, Madam, there's one more thing. There's a foreign object in the patient's brain. It's a very small piece of metal. We removed it as well. Xia Dong asked anxiously, will the removal of the foreign object affect my husband in any way? We had a checkup in China. The doctor said that the foreign object was in a very special position. If the operation was carried out, it was likely to touch the nerves next to it. Madam, the doctor interrupted her. Madam, please don't worry. The bullet fragments hit the foreign object and caused the position of the foreign object to vibrate. That's why we were able to successfully remove the bullet fragments and the foreign object at the same time. This is a complete miracle in terms of craniocerebral surgery. We were all very shocked and felt that this was an incredible thing. Thank you, thank you. Xia Dong was overjoyed. She covered her mouth with both hands and breathed hard. Her chest rose and fell violently, and her face was already wet with tears. The doctor and nurses were also relieved. Mika Kito hugged Xia Dong's shoulders. She couldn't hold it in anymore. She lay on his chest and cried loudly. Nervousness, worry, panic, and helplessness. After all these emotions subsided, she felt as if her whole body had been sucked out. She collapsed in Mika Kito's arms. Suddenly, her stomach throbbed violently. It was as if someone had pinched a piece of her flesh and pinched it hard. She was in so much pain that she couldn't even breathe. Mika Kito saw her suddenly clutching her stomach and her face turning pale. His heart skipped a beat and he hugged her tightly. Xia, what's wrong? My stomach hurts. Xia Dong had just finished speaking when her vision turned black and she fainted. Doctor, Mika Kito's anxious roar echoed in the empty corridor. When Xia Dong woke up, it was already the next day. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was the white ceiling. She was stunned for a few seconds and struggled to get up from the bed. The door suddenly opened and Mika Kito's tall figure strode in. Brother Shen, her voice was hoarse and unpleasant. Where's Ahan? How is he? Don't move. Mika Kito helped her sit up and stuffed a pillow behind her back. Bailey Han is in the intensive care unit. He hasn't woken up yet. Xia Dong held his wrist nervously. Will he be okay? Mika Kito's face was gloomy. He said coldly, he's fine. I think you're the one who's in trouble. Her fingers froze. His lips were pursed and his deep eyes were burning with anger. He said angrily, why did you hide the fact that you were sick from me? She instinctively lowered her head and muttered, I didn't hide it from you. I just didn't have time to tell you. When were you going to tell me? After the C-section? Or after Xiao Guai's surgery? Mika Kito's eyes were burning with anger. He really wanted to pry open her head and see what was inside. Xia Dong grabbed his arm and shook it. Brother Shen, I'm sorry. Don't be angry. Look, I'm fine now. He gritted his teeth and glared at her. Not good. Not good at all. The doctor said that you haven't cooperated with the treatment and refused to take the medicine. Your condition is worsening. Do you know that? Xia Dong laughed dryly. I just don't want to take too much medicine. It's going to affect the baby. Mika Keto roared, so you're playing with your life? I'm not. I'm trying my best to adjust my emotions and exercise appropriately to maintain my current condition, she explained in a low voice. I fainted this time because my emotions fluctuated too much. It's not a serious problem. Beitang Shen was simply driven mad by her. He stared at her for a long time, unable to speak. Brother Shen, don't be angry. I'm really fine. Xia Dong tugged at his sleeve. Mika Keto rubbed her hair helplessly. Xia, when will you learn to cherish your life? Xia Dong smiled. She cherished her life very much. However, because there were more important people to cherish, she always chose to ignore herself. Brother Shen, promise me one thing. Don't tell Ahan about my illness. Why? Mika Keto stared into her eyes. In the past, it was because I didn't want to agitate him. Now, it's because he just had surgery and his body is still very weak. I don't want him to worry. She begged. Brother Shen, promise me. Okay, I promise you. Mika Keto's eyes darkened with a hint of pain. She smiled brightly. Thank you, Brother Shen. I want to see Ahan. Mika Keto's face darkened. No, you're still very weak. You need to rest. She acted shamelessly. I'm already fine. If you don't let me see him, I'll be worried. It's not good for my health. Mika Keto keenly sensed that she had changed. She was no longer shy because she was afraid that he would get hurt. She was like before, acting shamelessly and coquettishly. She said whatever she wanted to say and treated him like an older brother. He was both happy and sad about her change. Welfare, Songshu 566. Chapter 249. He was happy that she was so intimate with him, but sad that she really only saw him as an older brother. He looked at her deeply, and she looked back at him and smiled coquettishly. He was defeated by her in the end. He held her waist with one hand and said in a low voice, Okay, I'll take you there. Bailey Han was in the intensive care unit. He was lying among a pile of equipment and was in a deep sleep. His hair was all shaved off, and there was a long suture wound on his head. His handsome face was pale and bloodless, and his eyes were tightly shut. He looked lifeless as he lay there quietly. Mika Keto had already left the ward. Only Xia Dong and Bailey Han were left in the room. She sat at the head of his bed and held his hand. She said in a low voice, Hubby, you have to get better soon. Bailey Han lay there quietly, without the slightest movement. Xia Dong sat beside him and accompanied him for more than half an hour. Finally, she came out of the ward and called home. The butler was so excited when he received the overseas call that he couldn't even speak clearly. Xia Dong smiled and said, Butler, please transfer the call to Grandma. The old madam was also very excited when she received her call. Her tone was much friendlier. Xiao Xia, I heard from Ahan that he found you. When are you coming back? Xia Dong paused and said, Grandma, we can't come back for the time being. There's something I need to tell you. You have to be mentally prepared. The old madam's heart tightened. Did something happen to Ahan? She had stopped Ahan from going abroad to look for Xia Dong because she was worried that he would be agitated by Xia Dong's illness. Could it be that what she was worried about had already happened? Xia Dong replied with an and said, Grandma, don't be so agitated. Ahan is fine now. The old madam took a deep breath. Go ahead. I'm ready. Grandma, we were attacked yesterday. Ahan was shot in the head. The doctor has already operated on him and removed the bullet fragments from his brain. At the same time, he also removed the foreign body in his brain. He is fine now, but he has not woken up for the time being. Xia Dong was afraid that the old lady would not be able to take it, so she did not even dare to breathe loudly and quickly said this. The old madam's expression changed. She froze for a moment before asking in a trembling voice, "You took out the small metal piece too?" "I've taken it out." Xia Dong explained the doctor's explanation to the old lady, dispelling the last trace of doubt in her heart. "When will Ahan wake up?" "We're not sure either." The old madam let out a long sigh. "It's a blessing in disguise." "Who attacked you?" Xia Dong did not tell her the truth. "We're not sure yet, but my godfather is already investigating. If the mastermind is still not found, then aren't you in great danger?" The old madam said with lingering fear. "When Ahan wakes up, you'd better hurry back." Xia Dong thought for a moment and said, "Grandma, it will take at least half a month for Ahan's body to recover. Gigai's condition has worsened, so it's not suitable for him to take a long flight. I want to stay here until Xiao Guai's surgery is done." "Grandma, don't worry. Godfather will find the mastermind and protect us." The old madam frowned and sighed. "Xiao Xia, how are you feeling now?" "I'm fine. The doctor said that I can definitely hold on until the day of the cesarean section." That's good, that's good." The old madam's frown eased a little and she said, "Xiao Xia, how about this? Let Ahan stay in room to take care of you and your son." "But my illness," the old madam said earnestly, "Xiao Xia, since Ahan has already undergone brain surgery, he should soon return to normal and remember the past. You don't have to worry that your illness will stimulate him. When he recovers, you can tell him the truth." Xia Dong gritted her teeth. "If Ahan stays in room, what about the family and the company?" The old madam smiled. "Although I'm old and not very useful anymore, it's not difficult for me to handle the family matters. As for the company, Ahan has already arranged it before he went to room. His assistant, Lu Zihao, has handled everything well. If there are any important matters, I'll ask Ahan for instructions." "It's okay." Xia Dong had no reason to refute the old madam's proposal. The old madam said again, "When you reach my age, you will understand that whether it's money, power, or status, nothing is more important than family. When you gave birth to Xiao Yi and the other two, Ahan was not by your side. For him, this is already a pity. Don't let him regret it again. This time, let him be by your side when you give birth." Xia Dong said softly, "I know, Grandma." "Xiao Xia, don't blame Ahan. In fact, he has suffered more than anyone else. He has always felt guilty about Yunxian. He took care of her because of that guilt. You have to believe that the person he loves is you." Xia Dong's eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She nodded. "I know, Grandma. I know." The old madam's eyebrows relaxed. "That's good. You two have to be well in room. Don't let an old woman like me worry anymore." Xia Dong choked with sobs. "Grandma, don't worry. We will be well. During this time, I'll have to trouble you to take care of Ahan. You have to take good care of yourself and the children." "Grandma, I will. You have to take care too." After ending the call, Xia Dong called Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao. When the two little guys heard that Bailey Han was injured, they were extremely anxious and clamored to come to room. Xia Dong comforted them for a long time before she convinced them to stay at home with Gigai. That night, the old madam informed the whole family about Bailey Han's injury. Everyone was shocked and worried. Bai Jinxiu covered her mouth and cried. Bailey Jing jumped up excitedly. "Grandma, I'll go to room tomorrow." The old madam frowned. "Xiao Jing, sit down." Bailey Jing sat down reluctantly. The old madam said, "Xiao Jing, what's the use of going to room? Your brother and sister-in-law are in a bit of trouble now. You'll only add to their troubles. If you really want to help, go to your brother's company and help him manage it." Bailey Jing's little face suddenly fell. "Grandma, I'm not cut out for business. You don't want to see me ruin my brother's company, do you? The old madam's face was sullen. Xiao Jing, you've been back for so long and have nothing to do. Go to the company and help your father or your brother. Isn't it good to learn management? But I really don't know how to do it. Bailey Jing's face was bitter. Grandma, I studied jewelry design. You want me to manage the company? Aren't you making things difficult for me? If you don't know how to do it, just learn. The old madam said earnestly, Xiao Jing, when your brother was your age, he founded the Shenghao Group. It's very hard for him to manage such a big company alone. He's injured and unconscious now. Don't tell me you're not willing to help him. Grandma, don't say any more. I'll go, okay. Bailey Jing was not afraid of anything. She was only afraid that others would use a gentle attack on her. The old madam nodded in satisfaction. That's right. As long as the family is fine and Ahan and the others don't have to worry, it's the greatest help to them. In the end, the family discussed and decided that Bailey Xiong would apply for an urgent visa and fly to Rome to visit Bailey Han. The others would wait at home for the news. Bailey Jing, as the acting president, would go to the Shenghao Group to take charge. Just as Bailey's family was in deep trouble, Lin Shihao's life was not easy either. He tried to persuade Bai Mei Wei to abort the child, but she always disagreed. Instead, she advised him that if she kept the child, it would not affect his family. She asked him not to interfere in her private affairs. Because he had something on his mind, Lin Shihao smiled less after returning home. After dinner, Lin Shihao washed the dishes and Yisiki washed the fruits by the sink. She looked up at him, pursed her lips, and said, Hubby, do you have something on your mind recently? Lin Shihao smiled. No. It's just that I'm busy. Maybe it's because I'm too busy with work. I'm a little tired. If you're tired, take a rest. Don't you still have holidays? Let's go on a trip as a family of 3, okay? Yisiki put the washed fruits on the plate. Okay, I'll go to the hospital's Human Resources Department tomorrow and arrange a vacation. Lin Shihao cleaned up the dishes and washed his hands. Then it's a deal. Where do you want to go? I'll check the information tomorrow. Yisiki picked a grape and fed it to him. How about Sanya? It's cold now. Let's go to Sanya to enjoy the sun. Lin Shihao hugged her waist and said with a smile. Okay, I've wanted to go for a long time. Yisiki poked his arm. Let's go out. Nyonyo is still in the living room. When Nyonyo heard the news, she jumped and screamed excitedly on the sofa. But soon, she was like a defeated rooster. She said listlessly, Mommy, Daddy, you guys go have fun. I'm not going. Lin Shihao carried his daughter onto his lap. What's wrong? Nyonyo said pitifully, I only have time on the weekends. It's not enough for a round trip. Lin Shihao rubbed her head. Daddy will help you apply for leave from the teacher, but you have to promise me that you'll make up for all the missed classes after you come back from your trip. Nyonyo's eyes sparkled. She raised her little hand and said excitedly, No problem, I'll definitely make up for it. Daddy, I love you so much. Lin Shihao smiled and pinched her cheek. The next day, after Lin Shihao arrived at the hospital, he looked for his colleagues in the Human Resources Department to arrange a vacation time. Then he followed the procedure and filed an application. After leaving the Human Resources Department, he bumped into Bai Mei Wei in the corridor. He nodded politely and brushed past her. She suddenly grabbed his arm and smiled. Senior, this patient's condition is a little special. Please take a look. Lin Shihao said mildly, Okay. He followed behind her and entered her office. She took out the patient's examination report and handed it to him. This patient is more than 7 weeks pregnant. Her uterus is stunted. If she gives up on this baby, she may not be able to have another child in the future. Come and take a look. Songshu 566. Chapter 250. Lin Shihao said in a low voice, the patient doesn't want the baby? Bai Meiwei shook her head. No, the patient really wants to keep the baby, but the father doesn't agree. He wants her to have an abortion. She's very hesitant. She wants to listen to the father, but she doesn't want to give up the chance to be a mother. Lin Shihao's fingers froze. His gaze fell on the name column in the report. The 3 words, Bai Meiwei, pierced his eyes. Bai Meiwei smiled sadly. Senior, are you willing to give that patient a chance to be a mother? Lin Shihao's entire body froze. He flipped through Bai Meiwei's report in disbelief. The facts proved that she was right. Her uterus was indeed a little special. It was very difficult for her to conceive. If she had a miscarriage after she got pregnant, she might never be able to conceive again. I don't know if I'm lucky or unlucky. Senior, please give me a chance to be a mother. I really like children. Bai Meiwei's eyes welled up with tears. She grabbed his wrist and begged in a low voice, Senior, even if I give birth to the child, I won't disturb you and your family. I'm begging you. Let me keep the child. Lin Shihao pushed her hand away. His thin lips were tightly pursed. After a while, he said in a hoarse voice, Meiwei, medical science is very advanced now. Your illness can be cured. In other words, he still hoped that she would give up on the child. Bai Meiwei's tears rolled down. She bit her lip and said pitifully, no matter what, I won't give up on this child. Lin Shihao wanted to say something, but someone knocked on the office door. Dr. Bai, are you there? Bai Meiwei quickly wiped her tears and said, wait a moment. Lin Shihao glanced at her and got up. I'll leave first. He opened the door. A nurse was standing at the door. She smiled and said, Dr. Lin, I'm looking for Dr. Bai. Lin Shihao nodded. Go in. She's inside. As Lin Shihao walked down the corridor of the hospital, he felt as if his body had been soaked in ice water. It was so cold that he felt uncomfortable. He took out his cell phone from his pocket and searched for Yusiki's number. His finger hesitated for a long time before he finally didn't have the courage to press the button. Suddenly, a figure rushed over. Caught off guard, he staggered and subconsciously tightened his grip on the phone. I'm sorry. My wife is about to give birth. The man wiped the sweat off his forehead and apologized as he continued to run forward. Excuse me. Lin Shihao lowered his head and looked at his cell phone. He had not expected that he would accidentally dial Yusiki's number. What's more, the screen showed that the call was in progress. Hubby. Yusiki called out twice, but she didn't hear any response. Honey, Lin Shihao said in a low voice. Yusiki quickly asked, Hubby, what's the matter? He rarely called her during work hours unless it was something important. Lin Shihao hesitated for a long time. In the end, he didn't tell her about Bai Meiwei's pregnancy. He opened his mouth and said, I've already confirmed the vacation dates with the Human Resources Department. That's good. When is it? Next weekend, and the Monday and Tuesday of the week after that. A total of 4 days. That's enough time. Yusiki smiled happily. Then I'll book the plane tickets and hotel today. Don't worry. It won't be too late to book them after the vacation report is approved. Yeah, that's right. What if there's a last-minute change? Hubby, you're so smart. Lin Shihao felt as if there was cotton in his throat. He felt very uncomfortable. Hubby? Lin Shihao forced a smile. Yeah, it's okay. As long as you're happy. I'm hanging up now. I have a patient coming in. All right. Go ahead. After hanging up the phone, Yusiki felt that Lin Shihao's mood was a little off. What happened? Could it be Bai Meiwei? Her good mood was ruined by this speculation. Yusiki sat in front of the computer, no longer in the mood to browse the plane tickets and hotel listings. The next day, Bailey Han still didn't wake up. Xia Dong started to get anxious. She asked the doctor, but the doctor said it was normal. His brain was injured, so all his functions needed some time to recover. She refused the help of the nurse and insisted on personally wiping Bailey Han's body. She wet the towel with warm water and carefully wiped his cheeks and body. By the time she was done, she was so tired that she was sweating profusely. Xia Dong stroked his pale face and said softly, "Hubby, hurry up and wake up. The children and I are very worried about you." Xiao Xia. The door to the ward was suddenly pushed open and an anxious voice sounded. "How is Ahan?" Xia Dong turned around abruptly and quickly stood up. "Dad, why are you here?" Bailey Xiong strode to the bedside with an anxious look on his face. "The family is very worried about the two of you, so I came to see how Ahan is doing. The doctor said the operation was successful, but he hasn't woken up yet." Bailey Xiong frowned. "It's been 2 days. Why hasn't he woken up yet?" Xia Dong poured a cup of tea for him. "Dad, don't worry. The doctor said it's normal. Ahan's bodily functions are recovering well." Bailey Xiong sighed. "I hope he gets better soon. Ahan will get better." "Dad, sit down first. Have you eaten?" Bailey Xiong sat down on the sofa. "I ate on the plane. How are you feeling now?" Xia Dong took an apple and said as she peeled it, "It's okay. His condition is stable." "Dad, how many days do you plan to stay here?" "I'll leave when Ahan wakes up. I've already booked a hotel. Foster father arranged a residence for me near this hospital. Dad, if you don't mind, you can move here. There are servants here who can take care of our daily life. It's more convenient." Xia Dong was mainly concerned about Bailey Xiong's safety. If they lived in the same apartment, it would be easier for the bodyguards to protect them. Bailey Xiong thought for a moment and said, "Well, it's more convenient to take care of you and Ahan if you live near the hospital. I'll ask my assistant to bring the luggage here." Xia Dong smiled and said, "Okay." Then she handed him the peeled apple. "Dad, have some fruit." On the same day, Bailey Xiong moved the luggage into Xia Dong's apartment. As she said, the apartment was very close to the hospital and was very spacious. It could be described as a mansion. There were more than 10 bodyguards inside and outside the apartment to protect their safety. Mika Kito also lived in the apartment to protect Xia Dong. When Bailey Xiong saw him, his expression was a little unnatural. Xia Dong was his daughter-in-law, but she lived under the same roof with another man. Although Xia Dong had explained that she and Mika Kito were foster siblings, Bailey Xiong still felt a little awkward. The two men stood in the living room, facing each other. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Xia Dong quickly said, "Dad, Brother Shen is here to protect us." "Brother Shen, my dad will also live here while he's in Rome." Mika Kito looked calm and called Bailey Xiong, "Uncle." Bailey Xiong smiled stiffly. Okay. Shen, I'll have to trouble you during this time." Mika Kito glanced at Xia Dong and said lightly, "It's no trouble. Xia is like a sister to me." His words explained the relationship between the two. Xia Dong looked at him gratefully. Bailey Xiong looked much better and said, "I heard from Xia Dong that you and Tomac are investigating the identity of the killers. Do you have any clues?" Mika Kito looked serious. "The killers are probably from the Juris family, but we don't have any concrete evidence yet." Xia Dong frowned. Didn't the Juris family sign an agreement with Godfather to coexist peacefully and not interfere with each other? Mika Kito's eyes darkened and he said in a low voice, "That's just on the surface. In fact, the competition between the two families hasn't decreased. If the Juris family is really behind this, we won't let them go." The Anya family was ready. Once they had concrete evidence, Tomac would declare war on the Juris family. In the afternoon, Bailey Xiong went to the castle to visit Tomac and expressed his gratitude. Tomac was very considerate and polite to him. Xiao Guai was also living in the castle for the time being. When Bailey Xiong went to visit her in the room and saw her weak appearance, his heart ached and his eyes turned red. Xiao Guai comforted him sensibly and wiped his tears with her small hands. "Grandpa, I'm fine. Don't be sad." Bailey Xiong hugged her tightly. "Gigai, when Grandpa came to Rome, your two brothers asked me to bring you gifts. Do you want to see them?" "Yes, yes." Bailey Xiong took out Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao's gifts from the bag. Xiao Yi gave Xiao Guai a porcelain doll. The doll was pink and cute, wore a floral dress and a small hat, and had a bright smile. It was very lifelike. Xiao Guai cried out in surprise, "This doll looks like me." Bailey Xiong smiled and scratched her little nose. "This is you. Your brother Yi made it himself." "Wow, it's so cute. I like it." Xiao Guai hugged the doll and was so excited that she didn't let go. "There's also this. Your brother gave it to you." Bailey Xiong opened an exquisitely wrapped paper box, and the thing inside came into view. "Ah, is this a rabbit?" Xiao Guai pointed curiously at the thing inside the paper box. Bailey Xiong laughed. "This is actually a puppy." Xiao Guai giggled. Brother's hands-on skills are still not good. The puppy looks like a rabbit. Bailey Xiong smiled and said, "You're right. Xiao Bao's hands-on skills are too bad. However, although this puppy doesn't look good, it's very tasty. Hey, this is food." Xiao Guai took the strangely shaped puppy in her hand and pinched it. It was soft. She sniffed it and smelled it. It smelled so good. It smelled like osmanthus. Bailey Xiong said softly, "This is a 5-nut mooncake. Although the shape is a little strange, it tastes very good." Xiao Bao said that you guys were in Rome during the Mid-Autumn Festival and didn't get to eat mooncakes, so he made them himself and asked me to bring them over. Xiao Guai put the mooncake back into the box and blinked her big black eyes. "Then I want to keep it and eat it with Daddy and Mommy." "Grandpa, why didn't Daddy and Mommy come to see me today?" Everyone kept Bailey Han's injury a secret from Xiao Guai. She was like a little princess living in a castle and didn't know anything about the outside world. Bailey Xiong carried her onto his lap. "Because your daddy accompanied your mommy to the hospital for a checkup, they couldn't come to see you." She nodded. "Oh, I know. Daddy and Mommy went to the hospital to see if the little sister was obedient, right?" Bailey Xiong smiled. "Gigai wants a little sister." Her little face was full of seriousness. "Yes, if Mommy gives birth to a little sister, then my beautiful clothes and toys can be given to the little sister." Bailey Xiong smiled and praised, "Our Gigai is so generous. I will be very good to the little sister. I will teach her to sing and dance, and I will also teach her to draw and write." Xiao Guai wanted to be an older sister. She wanted to learn from her two older brothers and protect her little brother or sister. "Gigai is so sensible. The little sister will definitely like you very much in the future." The grandfather and granddaughter chatted happily until Xiao Guai was tired and fell asleep in Bailey Xiong's arms. He put her on the bed and quietly left the room. He looked back at his little granddaughter who was lying on the bed and curled up into a small ball. There was a touch of pity between his eyebrows. The child was so young, but she had suffered so much. He hoped that his daughter-in-law would give birth to the child safely and cure Xiao Guai's illness as soon as possible. On the third day, Bailey Han still did not wake up. He was relying on nutrient infusions to maintain his body functions. Xia Dong and the others were very anxious, but after the doctor's examination, he said that everything was normal. There was nothing they could do except wait. The doctor advised the family to talk to Bailey Han more to stimulate his brain. Xia Dong had been taking care of Bailey Han for the past few days. She had told him a lot of things that they had experienced together. Even her voice was a little hoarse. Bailey Xiong said, "Xiao Xia, you rest first. I will take care of Ahan." He sat by Bailey Han's bed and recalled the past. In a gentle tone, he softly told the interesting stories of Bailey Han's childhood. As he recalled, Bailey Xiong suddenly realized that he was not a competent father. He had spent very little time with Ahan. In Ahan's childhood, his role was insignificant. He suddenly realized that his eldest son had been very lonely since childhood, which created his current cold personality. Bailey Xiong's heart was filled with guilt as he whispered, "Ahan, Daddy has let you down. I'm not a good father, and I've let your mother down. Don't sleep anymore. Wake up and shout at me. Even if you scold me, I won't be angry." At the end, his eyes were wet and his voice was choked with sobs. Xia Dong quietly left the ward and sat on the sofa in the hall. 2 bodyguards followed her from a distance. She sat outside for nearly half an hour, but Bailey Xiong still did not come out. Mika Keto came over from the elevator. When she saw her, she frowned and asked, "Why are you sitting outside?" Xia Dong smiled and said, "Dad is taking care of Ahan inside. I came out to rest for a while." Brother Shen, did you find the evidence? Beauty novel, Xinwu 799. Chapter 251. Mika Keto's face turned cold. That old fox Barit is too cunning. When we follow the 2 trucks, he will kill all the related people and wipe out the Eulis family. Xia Dong was furious. She clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. They are vicious and well-planned. They won't give up so easily. Let's force them to show their true colors. Mika Keto's eyes narrowed and he stared at her deeply. Xia, leave this to us. Don't do anything stupid. I won't do anything stupid. I just want to lure them out. Don't they want to use me to threaten you and Godfather? Then I'll just let them tie me up. Mika Keto put his hands on her shoulders and looked at her coldly. Are you crazy? You're pregnant now. How can you take the risk? But we can't just wait passively. Brother Shen, I'm living in fear every day. I'm afraid that they'll throw another bomb at the hospital. If we don't solve this matter, we won't be able to rest easy. Xia Dong was very agitated. She couldn't calm down at the thought that Bailey Han was injured because of this. Mika Keto put his hands on her shoulders and said, Xia, you're right. We have to lure them out. But you don't have to take the risk. Brother Shen, don't say anything. Leave this to me. Mika Keto's eyes flashed and he said, don't visit Shaoguai for the next few days. Why? Mika Keto's thin lips curved into an ambiguous smile. Xia, trust me. I have my reasons for doing this. She looked into his eyes seriously. After a long while, she nodded. Mika Keto and the others were tracking down the Eulis family, and the Eulis family was also watching them. Barit met with Wolf in the middle of the night and said in a low voice, our operation failed. The Anya family has been tracking us closely. Do you have any good ideas? Xia Dong has a daughter named Shaoguai. Tomac and Mika Keto love her very much. Before you attacked Xia Dong's villa, Bailey Han transferred Shaoguai from the children's hospital to Tomac's villa. Now, she has been transferred to the castle. Barit frowned deeply. You mean to say that we're going to attack Shaoguai? There's no way we can break into that old bastard Tomac's castle. The corners of Wild Wolf's lips twitched. If it's not Shaoguai's little hand, it'll be no different from throwing an egg at a rock. My partner had been monitoring Xia Dong for the past 2 days. He found that she would take care of Bailey Han in the hospital every morning and go to the castle to visit Shaoguai in the afternoon. Since we can't attack her in the castle or the hospital, why don't we attack her on the way to the castle? It was a long journey from Xia Dong's apartment to the castle, and it was an hour's journey. It was a very remote place. Last time, they had set up an ambush on this road. This time, they might have an unexpected gain. Barit frowned. Tomac has been watching us very closely. If this operation fails again, we'll be exposed. Wolf said in a low voice, in China, there's an idiom, cut off the cauldrons and sink the boats. It means that we have to win the battle without leaving any way out. Since you've made up your mind to eliminate Tomak and Mikakito, you have to be firm. Next time, you won't have such a good opportunity. Are you willing to see the Yuri's family be subservient to the Anya family? Before Wolf left, his godfather had told him to persuade Barit to eliminate Tomak and Mikakito at all costs. In short, they wanted to use the power of the Yuri's family. Barit certainly knew that his godfather wanted to cooperate with him because of his power. However, he was also hurt by Wolf's words. Who would be willing to be subservient to others for the rest of their life? However, he couldn't make such a big decision rashly. He pondered for a moment and said, I still need some time to think about it. Wolf said, I've already studied the battle plan. I can guarantee that they'll fall into the trap without any effort. Let me know when you've thought about it. The next morning, Barit was still hesitating. He was worried that the operation would fail again and his identity as the mastermind would be exposed. With Tomak's temper, he would definitely flatten the whole family at all costs. The housekeeper came over with the phone and bowed respectfully. Master, Tomak wants to talk to you. Barit took the phone and waved his hand. The housekeeper left and he laughed heartily. Tomak, good morning. Good morning, Barit. Tomak, what can I do for you? Barit stood on the balcony with the phone in his hand and looked down at the scenery inside the old castle. Tomak said angrily, Barit, I think you've heard that someone dared to behave atrociously in my territory a few days ago. I'm very angry, so I swore to find out who that bastard is. Barit's expression froze. Hatred surged in his eyes, but his tone had a hint of agreement. Who dared to make a move in your territory? Who is the other party? Tomak said angrily, I'm not sure yet. However, if I find out who that bastard is, he'll be dead. I'll kill him with my own hands. Barit's expression was very ugly. His fingers gripped the phone so tightly that the veins on the back of his hand bulged. Barit, I'm calling you to ask for your help in finding out the other party's identity. Tomak's words sounded like he was asking for help, but in fact, his tone was very bad. There was a kind of overbearing aura. Barit put on a fake smile and said, Sure, no problem. Let me know if there's any news. Tomak didn't wait for Barit's reply and hung up the phone. His arrogant tone made Barit so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Barit threw the phone on the ground with a bang. His face was distorted by anger. Damn Tomak, who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? One day, I'll make you kneel in front of me and beg me to let you go, you damn old bastard. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. This was the difference between the first and the second. The first was always superior, and the second could only obey the first's orders. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a good ending. Barit decided to be the first. He wanted to seize this opportunity to pull down Tomak. After Tomak hung up the phone, he turned around and looked at Mikakito. He smiled and said, How was it? Do I sound like I'm being overbearing? Mikakito gave him a thumbs up and said, If I were Barit, I'd be hopping mad. Tomak shrugged and said, More or less. I can almost hear the sound of Barit grinding his teeth. Barit's temperament is irritable, and he can be easily incited. With adoptive father taking action, this matter will be handled much more smoothly. Beitang Shin's lips curved into a sinister arc, let's beat him at his own game. Mikakito came out of the study and walked to the balcony with Suzaku following behind him. The two of them stood in front of each other, facing the wind like two statues. Mikakito suddenly turned around. Her eyes were as sharp as blades as she stared at Suzaku. She said in a deep voice, I want you to do something for me. Suzaku said calmly, Okay. Mikakito's eyes flickered and said, This is very dangerous. You might lose your life because of it. Suzaku smiled and said, My life has long been yours. I only have one request. Say it. If I die, let go of Director Lin and guarantee her safety. Okay. Suzaku smiled and said, Then I can die without regrets. Mikakito approached her and put his right hand on her shoulder. His expression was serious. It's good that you have the determination to die, but I want you to live. She stared into his eyes and said slowly, I'll try my best. At the same time, Xia Dong was taking care of Bailey Han in the hospital. She wiped his face with a towel gently and said softly, Honey, it's a new day. Didn't you say that you would accompany me and watch the baby grow up day by day? You're still sleeping in. The baby will laugh at you for being a lazy father. She unbuttoned his hospital gown and wiped his chest gently with the towel. Then, with the help of the nurse, she wiped his back. He couldn't see or hear anything, but his body could feel it. It was as if someone was wiping his body. Something soft was rubbing against his body. He wanted to move, but he couldn't. Bailey Han's mind was in a mess. He tried hard to sort it out, but he couldn't find the thread. Suddenly, he felt something warm on his face. It was soft and comfortable, but not long after, 2 drops of cold liquid rolled down his face. His fingers couldn't help but move. In the dark world, there was a faint light flickering. He couldn't help but follow it. The light became brighter and brighter, and it hurt his eyes. He closed his eyes and slowly opened them again. The chaos in his mind gradually dissipated, and scenes appeared in front of his eyes like a movie. That night, he drank alone at Charm Club. She deliberately stole the seed, and they had sex by accident. That rainy night, she slipped and fell. She reached out to pull him, but he pushed her away. She lay in the rain, looking at him with a painful and resentful gaze. His heart felt as if it had been torn open, and it was empty. In Bali, she went missing, and he went crazy looking for her. When she appeared in front of him, he was overwhelmed with ecstasy. That day, she said she wanted to leave. He drove in anger and crashed into an oncoming truck. The second before he lost consciousness, he suddenly realized that he had fallen in love with her, but he didn't have time to tell her. He thought he would never have the chance to tell her that he loved her, but she appeared in his life again. But at that time, he had already forgotten about her. Cold tears slowly slid down from the corner of his eyes. Xia Dong pressed her face against Bailey Han's. Suddenly, she felt her cheeks wet. She was sure that it wasn't her tears. She looked up and saw the tears at the corner of Bailey Han's eyes. She cried out in surprise, Hubby. Ad, Hungcha 866. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.